Last time I'll get you to run like that, Daryl.
Played the music.
Okay. We okay, if you guys are ready, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll reconvene from closed session. Ask the city attorney for any comments.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. The City Council was in closed session this evening on several items. First, conference with legal counsel on existing litigation, the city versus the Galt Wellness Center, and the companion case, Galt Wellness Center versus the city. Also, the third case actually was Galt citizens for sensible planning versus the city. And then the final item was an undisclosed matter, and there's no reportable action on any of those items.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll reconvene to our regular city council meeting at 7:02. If I could have the roll call, please.
Councilmembers Payne? Here. Claire?
Here.
Payne?
Here.
Shelton?
Here. I'd like to ask everyone to stand for a silent prayer, a moment of silence, followed by, I'm going to ask Council Member Daryl Clare if he would lead us in the flag salute afterwards. Daryl?
Please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. We could have the video statement, Liz.
This meeting of the Galt City Council is being videotaped in its entirety and will be cablecast without interruption on Metro Cable 14, the Government Affairs channel, on the Comcast and SureWest cable systems. Tonight's meeting can be seen on Channel 14 and will also be webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv this Friday and Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. Tonight's meeting can also be seen via live video streaming on the city's website at www.ci.galt.ca.us. A VHS copy is also available for checkout from any library branch. Members of the audience wishing to address council should fill out a speaker identification form and give it to the clerk. Please speak into the microphone when addressing council and state your name for the record.
Okay, thank you. We're ready? Okay, thank you. First item is the agenda approval, additions, and our deletions. Are there any? If not, I have a recommendation here. What I'd like to do is move the presentation. We have one tonight, and with your consent, I'd like to move that to after the consent calendar. And there's a reason for that. Okay with council?
Yes, sir. Okay with me.
Okay. We'll ask for any public comment. Sorry, Liz.
Under Government Code, Section 54954.3, members of the audience may address the council on any item of interest to the public or on any agenda item before or during consideration of the item. Please fill out a speaker sheet located on the table inside the entrances to the council chambers and forward the completed speaker sheet to the city clerk prior to addressing the council. We request that you state whether you live within the Galt city limits or the county area. A maximum of 5 minutes is allowed for each speaker. Rick Walters?
Thank you, Council. My name is Rick Walters, and I live in the city of Galt. About 5 years ago, Councilman Clare, you started my career sort of being involved in city politics. So it's fitting that I end tonight the way we started. So I have a few questions. About 6 months ago, you were challenged about your attendance
for council meetings. Never heard what transpired from that. The other thing is, are you now living in the city of Galt? And do you have a residence other than the city of Galt? So I just thought I'd ask these questions, and maybe you can explain to the public what that's all about. And thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, sure.
Thank you.
I'm looking, we had a attendance record from our city clerk. This year, I have missed 2 council meetings, to answer your question. Others have also, but you asked about me.
Daryl, just to help you out there a little bit, I think Mr. Walters wasn't just indicating about absences, but I think he's also referencing teleconferencing too.
Okay.
And the records that I asked our city clerk for shows me that since August of last year, from August 18th through July 20th, you actually was absent. You didn't show up for one meeting, but included with 13 other times that you teleconferenced. So out of the last 24 meetings, that means that regular meetings, that means you would have been not present 14 times. Just for clarity.
First of all, you made your comment, so why don't we move on, guys, because,
That's all right. Go ahead.
okay.
I think I was just clearing up with Mr. Walters.
And you made your point, so, but it's not agendized, so let's just move on to the next.
Okay.
Next speaker, please. Thank you.
John Slaughterback?
John Slaughterback. I live in the city. I understand this is your last night, Claire, and I would like to say that in the last 2 years I've gained respect for you. Now that may go down wrong with some people, but you have made some decisions that I liked. You've questioned 2 times in council here. You questioned expenditures by staff when nobody else questioned those expenditures. And one time you were the only one to question it, and of course you finally give up, I guess, and voted with the rest of them, which is 5-1. But at least you questioned those. 2 times you've questioned staff's expenditures. This one time you asked staff why we would have to pay $135,000 to do a filter pilot test. And you went through that pretty adamant about why couldn't we do it other ways, and nobody went along with you, so finally the council voted for it. And when I was on the oversight committee, it turns out that all of the engineering firms who were interviewed stated that the city should go with what has already been established throughout the industry, the filter so they seem to have already known. So why we spent $135,000, I agree with you. I don't know why we would do that. But as I said, I don't believe what I read in the paper, that you conspired to put Mary Lou Powers on council. I don't believe that. I think you got better character than that. I don't believe that. I understand why Tim Herboy said certain things, because he's been degraded quite a bit here in this city. He even had one person out of town told him that he'd hoped somebody put a bullet in his head. So he's got a chip that he's carrying around, and I understand why he would fight back and has these resentments. So anyway, I wish you good luck, and like I said, you've had especially the last couple of years, you've impressed me. I know I had differences of opinion with you, but there's leaders, and then there's leaders, and then there's leaders, and I'll put you in the second category. You are a leader. And like I said, there may be people that disagree with my opinion, but that's fine. I would say one thing too, that a group of our seniors, concerned citizens, I should say, had a meeting, and in that meeting we discussed what we would do this campaign, for this upcoming election. And we decided that we wouldn't endorse anybody. What we do, we would print up pamphlets, possibly. We haven't made this decision final, but we thought we'd make up pamphlets and distribute these pamphlets throughout the city on anybody that we had information on. And to give you the good example, the headlines would read, "Do you know?" And then we would pick some items. One example is, "Do you know that Ted Anderson spent how much money on a fleet of Harley-Davidson motorcycles when the new police chief came in, he said, 'Get rid of the motorcycles, we don't need them, you might as well try to recoup some of your money.'" That disappeared, nobody ever heard what happened there, whether we lost money or what. But what we would do, hopefully, it depends on how this council goes tonight, is print up flyers. Wouldn't be no political committee or nothing like that. We would be concerned citizens passing out flyers against anything if we know anything about a person that would not be good for this city, we would let the public know. And there's other items. Ted Anderson, he spent 4 years conspiring to put a transfer station out here. The public didn't know it until right at the very last end. There's a lot of things I can say about Ted Anderson. I know some of you like Ted Anderson, but there's a lot of things there. My time is up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slaughterback.
Thank you, John. Next speaker, please.
Dave Dahlgren? And then, while Mr. Dahlgren's walking up, this is the last one I have for public comment. The rest are all on the vacancy items, so just want to, if there's anyone else out there, get your sheets in.
Evening, Council, Mayor, everyone. My name is Dave Dahlgren. I'm a resident of this fair city now, going on 19 years. It's a little hard for me to switch gears here, but I would like to honor somebody who has been very instrumental in getting me involved in what's going on around Galt and also city council meetings. And I never used to do this because didn't know where to begin. I met Councilman Clare in Save Mart, of all places, which is all right. And I was in a pair of white coveralls. And he saw a badge on me that said, "Car Painter, Western Railway Museum." And he curiously asked me, "Do you paint automobiles?" And I said, "No, sir, I paint streetcars." Well, he was kind of taken a little bit aback with that deal. So anyway, I kept meeting Darrell on various occasions, and he said, "I'd like to bring a friend out there at the museum," and this happened on August 14th, 2005. About a month later, I get a call from Sue Corey and said, "Dave, could you please come to the council meeting on September 20th, 2005? The mayor would like to honor you." At that time, Darrell was mayor. And he presented me with a certificate of recognition just for painting a streetcar. I did not expect anything in return. We had a great day together, and it was just a good time. In fact, very few friends of mine, except in the railroad or railway enthusiast network, really would enjoy something like this. So naturally, I'm going to roll out the red carpet. So in return, 5 years later, before I get into that, I better clarify something here. When Darrell paid his visit with his colleagues, I had the streetcar covered with tarpaulins on the inside. I was busy painting the ceiling, and it was a mess. And it was in the car house, and all he could do was to take a look at it, and without tripping over all the drop claws I had down there, then we left. I hope what I'm about to give to you will take that place of that day, and I hope it can find a place somewhere in your new environment, your den, home, office, or something like that. And by the way, this is easy open. I hope if it can be allowed, I'd like you to see this.
Absolutely.
Some things are they say it's an easy open and you get on the perforation and you end up getting out a knife. This is definitely easy open. So I'd like to recognize you 4 years, 5 years later. I'm getting all nervous here for what you did for me.
Well, as I open this, he didn't tell the story accurately. He said all he did was painted, I think you said a streetcar, and far from it. Any of you who have not been out to the Western Rail Museum, you are missing something. And how many hours, roughly, I know I'm going to embarrass you, but roughly, how many hours have you volunteered up till now?
Well, in this particular picture, 45 years, 1965.
45 years. So the reason he oh my gosh, I got to go see it. It's all done? Sir, thank you. You would not have believed what this streetcar looked like the day I saw it, as he said. Anyone who ever owned a 57 Chevy, or in my case a 1950 Willys Jeep, or anything else that you took all the rust off and cleaned all the goop out and took apart the engine and realized you don't know how to put it back together, would probably know why I was so admiring what this gentleman's been doing and the other folks out there. These people go out, sleep on the premise sometimes. They just work too late at night. Doesn't make any sense to go home and sleep on the ground or a bench, or and come back and make makeshift restrooms and showers and everything else. So thank you. That was wonderful. I appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. I will. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. And all the other speakers are on agenda items? Okay. Okay. Thanks for starting us off, Dave. Okay, our next item is the consent calendar. Liz, if you could read those items off, please.
Yes, we have 3 items. The first one is approval of the minutes of the special and regular meetings of July 20th, 2010. Number 2, approval of the City of Galt warrants. And number 3, a street closure for Liberty Ranch High School Homecoming Parade.
If there's no comments, is there a motion?
I so move.
Oh, second.
Motion's been made and double seconded. Any further discussion? Not? Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Payne? Aye. Councilmember Claire?
Aye.
Councilmember Haines?
Aye.
Mayor Shelton?
Aye. Passed. Okay. Now we're going to do a presentation. Oh, okay. Lose my notes. Okay, now it's my turn. I'm gonna try to keep smiling the whole time. Darryl, can you come down to the podium, please? It's with great respect and honor. And I knock it off, Randy. with honor. Can you come over here, Darryl? I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the deeds you've done in this community. And a lot of them, the people don't even know, because I know the things that you've done. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
We have a plaque for you, for your years of appreciation as a Galt City Council member, for your superb service. April 2002, August 2010. You achieved and started out as mayor, and you held that position for 4 years. That's an achievement, sir. I want you to know that.
Thank you.
So, again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Started out there a little choky, but I recovered, I think.
Well, I'll be the one choking now, so.
Okay, Darryl, I'll give you the floor.
I tried to make some notes. I'm going to try and stick to them because there's some things in there I don't want to forget to say, and certainly some people I don't want to forget to thank. And something that's not in here, and I'll start with that because it's just,
Dave's coming, for example, and the volunteerism that he does for our community, there's no community that I've ever seen that has more heart, more spirit, and more volunteers in the city of Galt, plain and simple. And sitting in the center of the auditorium is a lady named Francie, who brightened my evening not knowing she would be here. Francie and I actually worked together for a period of time at Holtz Rubber Company, where I was vice president of operations for, I guess I was there 15 years, and Francie was there kind of in the middle of it. And so just those little surprises, those people you don't expect to see. I've gotten cards and emails and phone calls and people I haven't heard from years and in other cities, and Congressman Lundgren, and just a variety of people that, you know, until you reach moments like this, sometimes you probably don't fully understand that somebody notices. I mean, we get to hear at the podium on a fairly regular basis those who notice one way or another, and that's the great part of democracy that I'll continue to fight for. Anyway, to all of those people who have gone out of their way to make that call or that contact in these last few months, and especially the last few weeks, I want everyone to know how much that's meant to me. And as I say, I'm going to kind of go through some notes, or I'm just going to regret tomorrow things I didn't say. But it's hard to believe that it's been 8 years, although my wife and family, I don't think it's hard to believe. But many of you know I began actually getting involved 12 years ago and ran in the 1998 election, where I missed election by 60 votes. And so 2 years later, I thought I'd try it again. In 2000, I missed by 6 votes. And so those who don't think every vote counts, my daughter at the time said, I know 6 friends of mine who didn't even vote. If I'd known it would matter. So, but thanks to a little persistence and the third time being the charm, I was elected the 4th or the 3rd time, and actually was graced by a 24% margin in winning that election. So it was something I felt very good about. I got started being called the ever ready bunny, and he just keeps running. And but to the cast that's about to go after this election, and I suspect from what we see it's going to be a good size. Don't make this your first if it's not successful. Don't take it that you failed in any way. I keep above my desk a little note that says that failure is a lot less to deal with than regret. And put yourself out there, go for it, and whatever happens, happens, but you'll be better for it. I think we've gotten a lot done in 8 years. It's been a team effort by the council and councils I've had the pleasure of serving with, and the staff and staffs I've had the pleasure of working with. None of this is done in a vacuum or by yourself. On a personal note, I will just mention, and I think most of you know, one of the things I'm proudest of is to have made a difference in getting Galt's name back out into the region and the state. And to this day, when I walk through the halls of Congress carrying my little Galt bag, it just feels good. It just does, and it's been an honor to do that. There's too many people for me to thank tonight. I'm going to go too long anyway, but I do want to try and touch on some of them. Most importantly, just the voters who had the faith in me to put me up here on 3 separate occasions. And I truly, truly appreciate that. And for the ones who didn't want me up here, for the ones who stayed in the process and came and debated and made their points and asked for a vote up or down on what they wanted done at the council. And that, in the end, is what it's all about. And I congratulate all of you. I want to thank, as I say, the volunteers in our community and the churches and the nonprofits that make such a difference. I want to thank both of our school boards and their staffs. We've had a long working relation with them and their electeds, trying to do the best we can for our kids. And again, there are no harder people. You look at some of the volunteers and some of the school programs and where we've been a part of, it's amazing the time and energy they put in. To many of our business partners, too many to name, but people like Omni Means and West Yost and F&M and Union Banks who've been with us for some time, and Cal Waste Recovery Systems, Dave Acareza and Jack Fiore, who continue to service this community and I think set a high standard for customer service. And I see it day in and day out when I see a driver getting out of the truck to clean up some garbage that fell out of the can that didn't quite make it in the truck. And that comes from the top, and we appreciate that because when they're in our community, they really represent us. And so I appreciate they take special regard for our city and our reputation. I want to thank Pete Evich, who's been our federal lobbyist in the Van Scoyoc organization. He has worked, I think, tirelessly for us. I frankly think he's probably given us a better deal than anyone I know of anyway, and that's because we were one of his first clients, so we lucked out with that. We picked a winner from the start, and I want to say thank you to he and his wife and the kids. I've actually gotten the chance to babysit the kids now on 3 or 4 occasions, and I'm the winner in that process. They're a great family. I want to thank all the elected officials in the region that support our community and I've had the chance to work with. A lot of good things have happened as a result of other people that you've never met, probably never even heard of in most cases, supporting. Between some work we did in various areas, we got in excess of $20 million, and there is going to be an interchange over here. I am going to come back and stand on it when it happens. But that couldn't have gotten done without their help. This body didn't have the authority or power to vote on those millions of dollars that those people in another community voted on. And that's why it is so critical we're out there and making those acquaintances. To SACOG, the Air District, our own County Board of Supervisors, and especially to Donna Tolley. There's no finer gentleman, there's no more humble servant to the people than Donna Tolley, in my opinion, and I've had the pleasure to meet a lot of elected officials. I admire him, I admire what he does for us, and I admired his father before him. And so special thanks to him for helping me, mentoring, and showing me around the ropes a little bit, and being there for some critical votes when we needed them. Again, to Congressman Lundgren and his staff, they've been tremendously supportive, also gotten us millions of dollars for the interchange in particular, the waste treatment plant, and he's working on other things as we go forward. To this specific council, Andrew, we unfortunately had to say our goodbyes the other day, but again, thank you to him for his service, not just to this community, but to the country. The first time he and I ever chatted was behind that door. That was my office, called the Bat Cave at the time, because it didn't really have any lights. And we sat down, and he was everything he should have been, young and excited and gung-ho, and I said, the only thing, be careful what this takes away from you, your family, and young children. And time told that he realized that that was a toll that wasn't worth paying any longer, and made his choices, and I respect it. It takes a lot. I know Don's probably had the same with his family and tough choices he's got to make, and I'll only surmise that he's about to make that choice one more time. And until you've sat up here, you don't know. I had someone once say something, about, well, how many hours do you guys usually put in? And, 20, 30, 40. It's a whole nother full-time job. And when you're sitting in that seat as the mayor is, it's consuming, and your family has to be there and be willing to support that. So, to Barbara, I don't know if there's a sweeter lady who cares more about our community than Barbara Payne. It has been just a pure pleasure working with her. I've worked with her in Rotary. I've worked with her in other things outside the council. Here in the council, she's been kind enough to, I think, almost without exception, to fill my empty seat at SACOG and the Air District and the Rail Commission and the Library Board and whatever else. And
Try to
so,
fill.
No, you will. and I'll tell you, I have had to restrain myself on a number of occasions when I felt she has been attacked unfairly. This lady does not have a mean bone in her body. She thinks the best of everybody until you prove her wrong. She will give everyone who comes before her a fair chance, and in my opinion, too many chances, but that's her nature. But she can be formidable, she can be tough. I made this up, she can be Texas tough. But she is a force to be dealt with, and I really appreciate all the time we spent together.
Thank you.
And to Randy, we have served together more than once, in a lot more places than just up here.
It's true.
Running around a hot asphalt surface, as I recall, quite a few times. And I've always respected you. I've always admired your ethics, your work ethic, and the ethic you've passed on to your boys, because you've brought them along on many occasions. And I admire the way you conduct yourself as the mayor and the respect you have for the office, not thinking yourself so important, but the office that you represent in our city, whether you're here or abroad. And so you have done us proudly, and it's been an honor to work with you. But as much as we try to take credit for all those things, it's only done because of the professional staff we work with. And we have had the pleasure of working with the best. And I've seen it at SACOG in the Air District, and so I know what it looks like when I see it here at home, too. And it's the same spirit, it's the same attitude that we see in the community of willingness to give, to go above and beyond. How they put up with us electeds is beyond me. I'd much rather sit on this side than that side because they have to be polite to us. And they do it well. But I'm going to try and quickly just mention a few things of some of the folks, and some aren't here. There are two elected people up here with us that often are forgotten that they're elected. And they are, to my left, our treasurer, Sean, who has served more than any of us up here, and I suspect will continue. And he is the epitome of what you would want in a treasurer. He's the epitome of who you want trusting literally your money to. And it's been my honor to work with you, sir, and thank you to have known your father. Thank you. Our other, of course, is our city clerk, Liz Aguirre, also elected by the people, is independent of the council, and I strongly support that she should continue to be. And I'll leave the rest to pick on you a little bit later. To the rest of the staff, and actually former staff that aren't here, thank you to them, in particular Chief Matthews, who was running the department when I came, helped us get the new building up. There's a lot of people who've already left service here. One I'll share quickly, Doug Galt. Many people, and I've had people tell me how much he didn't like me or whatever else. Probably the nicest email I've received was from Doug Galt, and saying quite simply, one man to another, respecting we didn't agree on things. It was an honor working together. We didn't agree on how to get a lot of things done, but he said, I always knew you were trying to do what you thought was right, and I suspect you thought I was doing the same. And so thank you to Mr. Galt for that. Paula, who's not here, and seeing her progress since she came here has been amazing, leading her organization now, taking us through a lot of tough issues. And then there's Boyce, Mr. Parks and Rec, the big guy. I mean, you are, when people think of Galt Park and Rec, it's synonymous with your name, Boyce. Your crew, you've got a great group out there, and the TOTS program, you name it, we are looked at, and you know we are, throughout the community for being, and for a town our size, and I know people always say that, but it is amazing what you have done. Walker Park coming up and the other things. Congratulations to all your team have done. To Greg, I don't know how you and your staff even get it done. I suspect it has a lot to do with Ann, so please tell her thank you for me. We know behind the scenes who runs things, but that's okay. I know. I know who runs behind my scenes, and she's sitting right over there. So, but again, for the people outside the bubble, so to speak, the load that currently is being carried by our public works staff and outside consultants is disproportionate to a town this size in a good way, but it's just something you can't sustain, and we hope when we get through some of these major programs that it calms down a little. But given the workload, the timelines, and everything else, you, sir, in particular, and your staff doing a phenomenal job. I do recommend you get some sleep from time to time, and I know you have a wife also who's paying a price for what you're giving to us. To Kurt, who's not here, and Sandy and the staff, they guide us through a maze of things you would never want to be guided through or have to read in your life. And to the commissioners on the Planning Commission, some of which who are here, thank you for the work you do. There's nothing more boring than reading those reports, folks. I mean, it's been an honor to do it, but you don't want to read those 400-page documents. And luckily, we've had the staff to help us go through many of those things, getting us through the general plan that seemed it would never end, and hopefully getting the balance of the work to be done, and LAFCO and everything else. So thank you for that. And the staff is the continuum. It's going to change again in November, these 5 seats. And it is that staff that continuum goes on, that momentum and that knowledge base. To our current chief, what an amazing job he's done since he's gotten here. To you, your officers, the detectives, the dispatchers, the lieutenants, the volunteers, I mean, just everything you're doing, Caps and Lynn and all they do, through everybody's work and through the faith, again, of the taxpayers. We've got more officers on the street than ever. Crime is noticeably down. The statistics back it up. And it is neat to start at the beginning and see that process happen and get the results we were after. So to you and your team again, thank you. Inez and Patty, who's already retired, and their staff, anyone who's been around accounting, you would be impressed at the job those folks do. The professionalism, the cross-training. I think it's like the military. I think they're forced to switch jobs every so often. But it shows and it pays off that you don't get, well, so-and-so's not here, I can't help you. They strive to help you the first time you come in. And if you see the awards they've won for the work they do, you'll understand that that pays off as well. Getting winded here. To the last two, and two gentlemen who've meant the most to me in the work we've done most recently, and that is Steve and Jason. I suspect if you put Steve or the word perfect attorney in Wikipedia, must have his picture next to it. I'm going to go home tonight and see. You could not ask for a more consummate, professional, legal counsel than this gentleman. We were lucky to get him as a contract attorney, but God smiled on us when we got him as our in-house attorney. And I hope for the city that is a long relationship, and I hope it works out well for him as well. When you're in some of the legal issues we've been in and are going through, the last thing you want is someone who tells you what they think you want to hear. And this gentleman, I have never even had the sense of that. He does his work, he does the analysis, he charts the best course, he tells us what he believes it is, he tells us what the B and C plans are if we don't like the A plan, and then he asks for us to take a vote on how we want to proceed. And I've never known him to look disappointed if we didn't take plan A or take it personally or anything else. He's always treated it with ethics and professionalism and knew his job's to advise, our job's to decide, and the rest goes on. So, and I hope I can call you a friend. It's been an honor working with you. And then Jason's almost been like having a son, not that maybe the age spread is quite right, but we needed Jason before we ever met Jason. We made a decision to hire an assistant city manager. We ran, the usual ads. We got some responses. We had a panel. They went through. We got a short list, and we had a few left, and we met Jason. And the moment I met Jason, I thought, you know what, I think we found who we're looking for. And we had some subsequent interviews with him, and I think he has proven ever since then that we have met who we were looking for. He brings nothing but enthusiasm and energy and a fresh passion to the job each morning with a smile on his face. I think he has lifted our entire staff and their performance by setting his example. Likewise, he has told me more than once, I think you're crazy. But I'm willing to listen if, but it's much easier to work with that than, again, someone trying to pretend like they agree with your point of view when they really don't. And again, he has gone toe-to-toe with this council individually and as a whole, and won the day sometimes, and we won the other, and that's how it works, and we're both the better for it. He's never backed down from what he thought was right. And again, you are what we were looking for. When the time came to move you over a seat, I think everyone probably felt we already knew you were going to be that right person. We'd seen you in action. Now that you've been there, we know we made that choice right also. And it's been a pleasure as well working with you, and I wish you and your family all the best as you go forward. And as more than one of us has said, we just hope to keep him long enough that we can, because people like him are going to get a lot of offers from a lot of places, and that's just the way it is. So that's the easy part. I have some family I'd like to say thank you to, and I'm already falling apart. Can't talk.
Well, Darrell, I just, while you're regaining your thoughts there a little bit, I know that it seems like your family and my family, with the Strawberry Festival and the Historical Society, I think we've done about 1,000 miles apiece, but not just us, a lot of people. And I really appreciate that about you. I know that there was times when we were volunteering with some different organizations. Those were just two, but many others in the community. And what I appreciated where I would get a little short, you know, or you'd get a little short, and then we end up just smiling and say, well, why are we yelling at each other, you know? Whatever that project was, it wasn't getting done, you know, we still had to do it. So I just thought I'd throw that in there.
What I wanted to say is a lot's changed since I sat down 8 years ago. My father passed away about 2 years ago this weekend, and it would have been fun to have him here tonight. Being a typical father, he loved to embarrass me by saying, have you met my son? He's the mayor of Galt, to people in restaurants that we had never met before, just because that's what he would do. And then sadly, my brother just passed away a couple of weeks ago, and we're actually going to take his ashes to the Sierras where he asked that they be placed this weekend. But with me this evening, my strongest supporters, my daughter Jessica, who is pregnant with our first grandchild, due in October, and her husband Billy. My son's away at college in St. George, Utah, and will be in this weekend for my brother's services, but hasn't arrived yet. And the most important person in my life, the one who knocked on more doors than she ever wanted to, and the one who's happiest she won't be this November, is my wife. And so if I could take a moment, I would like to have her join me at the podium, which she hates.
What she hates. But she'll do it anyway, right, Barbara?
There's no way to say thank you for all that she's given up. The last election, we made a deal that that would be the last election, that this was going to end either way. She granted me 4 more years of ignoring her in many cases, leaving her alone on many nights, a number of trips to Washington, D.C. and other things, so that I could do the things I did. And now I will dedicate myself to her with more energy, more passion than I did to our city, and make up for the time that we've lost while you are willing to step aside and let me pursue something that I felt strongly about. And I appreciate all that support and all those years. The first night she met me, not the first night she met me, the first night she came to this town on a date with me was lighting of the night. So I convinced her I did this for her. I said, that's the kind of pull I've got in this town. She now knows that was a lie. But she's been with me ever since then. She said if I'd known you were going to do this, there probably never would have been a second date. But seriously, thank you for all you've done, all you've put up with. And for a period of time, you were our First Lady, and you'll always be my First Lady. Again, to my daughter and her husband Billy and my son, they too had to hit the campaign trail. They unfortunately literally were accosted in public places if someone didn't like my policies and had to put up with that. In fact, Jessica worked locally, and that put her at people's beck and kind of whenever they wanted, and I apologize that you were ever subjected to that. But you weathered it all, you stood behind, and your support and your love's always been there. And Billy, who treats you the way I had always hoped a son-in-law would treat my daughter. You both honor me by being here tonight, so thank you.
Thank you, Darrell.
Miss Donna, where are you? And Miss Sue.
Donna was here. There's Sue.
All right, well, we'll pick on Liz first.
Jim will get her.
You have to go there.
Yes.
What?
To the podium.
There's Donna. We'll get to you in a minute. No one but my wife knows how much I think of this lady right here. It's a cry, make me cry. There's no way any of us, let alone I, could do what we've done without you and your support and your team. You have become a dear friend. My wife actually said Liz is the only person I could travel with of the female persuasion. She actually said but thank you deeply, long after these flowers are gone. My gratitude to you for all the support you've given me and all the assistance and the research and everything else. There's no way to properly thank you, but this is a small gesture. And Donna and Sue, if you could come up. Hey, these flowers match your Sue already got her flowers, so she retired early on us, and but Donna didn't. These two ladies as well put in just countless hours at crazy requests that the council come up with. Many of them are legitimate, but I've seen some of the things you've had to research for us, and it just is silly sometimes. But you've always done it with a smile. You scared me when I first met you, so I'll just say well, when I first got elected, I was just thinking, man, I hope I don't make her angry, because you knew so much and you knew how everything was done, and I was literally intimidated and frightened. Donna was just too friendly to be that way. But she set me straight a few times since as well. But these ladies and the work they do in the office are not fully understood. They're about to be shown in this election cycle. You do not want to work in that office between now and after election. All the work they're going to have to do. And keep a smile on their face. And while one candidate's bad mouthing the other one and what they think they've done wrong, and they want these two to immediately fix it and do something about it, to stay professional, to stay out of the fray, to carry the work you need to do, and get us through the election. We all have to do that. All right, we survived it. Thank you very much.
I think Barbara said you wanted to say something.
Yeah, I did. Daryl, I don't want you to get away without me saying what an inspiration you've been to me. And as I've taken some of your positions with STA or SACOG, it makes me proud that you represented Galt, because I heard from so many people just wonderful things about you and how you represented our city with dignity and intelligence. And I'll do the best I can, but I know that it's not going to be like having Daryl Clare there. But I know that we wouldn't have what we have today if you hadn't been willing to go and work like you did. And I have to say, in the beginning, I thought, why is he going to all of those out-of-town meetings? The work needs to be done in Galt. But now I know that Galt isn't an island, that you have to be a part of the whole. And Daryl did that for us, and he brought us so much. Brought us money, yes, but he brought us special recognition in the area and dignity. And he's also been my hero, too. So thank you very much, Daryl, and we will miss you.
Thank you.
Well, I don't know if there's any other comments. If not, I think we deserve a little break here with some refreshments. And
sounds good to me.
I think Kleenex, right? Okay, and anyway, there's cake, and I think
you have to go get your picture taken with the cake
right.
first.
With the cake?
Yeah.
Before, a couple of people said they were going to put
the
their
rule.
hand in it. So you might want to get over there. And then the audience, for those individuals that like to just say a few words to Daryl. We'll just take a 10-minute break, okay, folks?
Come back at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Good time.
Come back. We'll reconvene at 8.
Down to 3, huh?
Well, we'll see. We'll.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, I assumed the RNC because it's your deadline tomorrow. I should be fine. No, I'll just leave it for later because I didn't want to interrupt your own. I'll do it tonight. It's not about it, being a lot about it. But people don't everything about that's priority. If I can get it squared away for everything, I'll come back 2 years. I'll come back in a couple of years. But I really got to focus on that on my job. You know, I don't know how much longer I'm going to take that job. Get your health together. Yeah, so we'll see. Well, good luck. And well, we still got a little bit of time between now and November, so. I don't know how to trying to speak either. I want to do something about. I'd like to run something the swimming dress issue. Trying to get you guys also. And I really think one of my biggest issues obviously I was out in the law enforcement of crime. Public safety assistant. And that was my primary issue. But in light of things that I've learned over the last year, it's become a big issue. So I'm hoping to get that addressed. I'd like to keep it going. No, you didn't. But you brought up a good question, and I'm going to ask. Well, they have to live in the community. There's different ways that there's different ways that the courts have found whether somebody is legally living in the community. And the biggest things are where do you get your mail, where are you registered to vote, where's your driver's license, things like that. Because people can have multiple homes. Yeah, absolutely. No, I hear what you're saying. No, I knew what you were asking because based on what the issue had come up and it was what's his name? He brought it up a couple of times. Yeah, he brought up Andrew's. You know, you make a good question. I was going to let it go, and then when you brought it up, I decided to push it. He's really been asking for something a couple of times. Mostly telecoms. And he didn't answer your question avoided it. So, to add what Jason said is that you can have a second residency if your primary residency, if you declare your primary residency, and you can prove it, either you're voting there, your registration is there, you mail it. However, that's not to say, but that's not to say that it's unethical, because it would be unethical. The difference between legal and... That's right. Yeah. The law is such that the law, just because it makes it legal, doesn't make it right. So, I will get your question. No, I heard what you were saying. I was paying attention, and I'll ask you that question. We'll get it done. But I'll be frank with you. You know, he has every right not to answer the question. But if he avoids it, it was just like that. It just needs to be out there, so it's like that's and I know it's his last day and everything, and I was going to let it go, but the thing of it is an ethical issue. I know, and the rest of us are, and we're going to have to deal with what's left here. So as he leaves on. So I have some ethical issues. By the way, I'm not going to run. You coward. Now, he's not sitting on the other side of it. I realize it. Yeah, it is. Oh, it is. So, you can get some cake? No. Only this transparency. Really hard to do. Really nothing. I know it's really bothers me that he set up here last year, knowing that he's avoiding something else. Deliberately knowing that, deliberately after avoiding making decisions, knowing that he's actually living with us. Even though, for legal reasons, he said that he was here. Now, Andrew, on the other hand, he knew he had another job. He was so he could have been for the next couple of years if he wanted to. He didn't do it, but for ethical reasons. And I think everybody should be required to live up to the same standards.
And you're right. What has to be gained, in my opinion, is simply this, is that if you ask the question, you know what I'm saying? And I think people have a right to know whether or not he can or hasn't. Legally, he has no obligation. But ethically, I think he has an obligation to step down and say, I'm not going to vote on this. You know, I'm not going to just have to live with this decision. He could do that. But for me, it's very difficult for me to just, you know, it's very hard for me to let it go. I've let a lot of other things go, and even though it's a lot of stuff, I just don't know that I can do that. I'm sorry.
That's your call.
I know,
You know?
I know.
It doesn't affect me in any way.
I know it does.
Yeah.
You're right. It's not.
Just give you my opinion.
It doesn't. In my opinion, the only thing we can do is to put the other people on notice and say, hey, you do this, and you may be, you're going to be called out on it. You know, and yeah, I'm probably going to be disliked or hated for it, but you know, that's not what I'm here for. I'm not here for the popularity.
Hey, Chief.
You can do that, yeah. And I think it was in the introduction.
Oh, no. You know what, I realized I had him, when I crossed it, I was like,
Okay, no, that works.
these are special meetings too, I realized they were regular meetings. I didn't realize.
Don't worry about it. It's not the end of the world. We're within.
Oh, Chief? I left them there. They're over on his side. I mentioned to Don the measure our.
You know what? I gave him my work phone, didn't I?
That's what I call.
Did you get my cell phone a month and a half, 2 months ago? I'm not replacing it. Okay. I'm just not gonna replace it. I think I have it on vacation mode. So
I tried to call it, I didn't even go to voicemail.
no, it's on vacation mode because I'm lost. I could put it 25, 30 bucks. I was gonna replace it. I just don't want to spend it. You know what I mean? I got my work phone. I can use it every once in a while.
I mentioned to him the measure R issue, not really specifics, but he said Monday.
Yeah.
Let's get together and talk. It's gonna be, you can be launched on Monday. You're here on Monday.
Yes.
That's my work number.
I have a 209.
You wanna write my name on it or
No, how many more do you have to have?
No, just tell me on it. Well, you know what, I'm down to the last few weeks, and I hate to not spend a couple $100 on
I hear
the
you.
phone, because I was usually going to get rid of it before.
Yeah.
You know, so,
I'm just giving you a bad time.
that's okay.
Somebody has to do it. Who else? All right, Monday then.
Monday.
Just call me and firm it up. What time you want to
Noon,
be?
11:30?
11:30 is good. 11:30 is excellent.
Why don't you just, come over to City Hall, we'll go somewhere.
I'll be there.
Okay.
Consider it done.
I'm gonna send you guys an email to remind you.
Yeah, you better remind me. I don't
Well, I don't need it. I'll
got it.
know, yeah.
You'll chat,
I'll have
right?
about 8 other different meetings that'll just run away from me.
Although
See enough meetings today?
Although I will tell you, I probably missed half the appointments I've made here in the last month, there's always something coming up, but no, this one should be fine. I took
We
care of
we
that.
saved the demo for the license plate reader for you because we thought you were coming to the safety meeting and then you didn't come and we
Yeah.
had it all laid out and everything. So
pretty
it's just,
sweet
you know, it's
Isn't it nice?
got the
Maybe on Monday.
Tom's name on it.
Is it still, is it still gonna be up and running? On Monday, if you wanna go over to CD, I
I did.
Give you a glimpse of it. It's a neat piece of equipment.
I love
Don
the idea.
Haynes Memorial License Plate Reader.
I love that thing.
Memorial.
Well, hey, you know, that thing picks up anybody with warrants, I mean, it reads so fast, I mean,
That was one of the things you always wanted was to see the
I did.
see the technology increase, and so every time I look at that thing, I say, boy, Dad, I'd be happy to see that.
Because I really thought it was a real asset, because you can put those not just on the car, but you can put them on the corner, on a pole, or you can.
We're gonna put them on, 2 vehicles.
2 cars.
Good.
And we got grant funding. And we're gonna do the agreement with Up Road.
So we'll use new software and we'll get the hardware. I love it. And that's what we talked about before?
You just had to save up enough money so the Don Haynes plan came to fruition.
Well, you know what, that marijuana law, that is working from the technology of our own.
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't.
Great expense.
Coming and going.
Price
And
range.
it's tested against stolen vehicles, registration.
Well, you know what?
Warrants.
I totally.
I'm noticing those little flags, somebody pops up, beep, 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 and they'll show up on there, turn around. So yeah, wow, it's pretty sweet.
Okay, now it's down.
It's, pretty amazing technology, how clear, how you actually can get on the reading of a license plate and how fast it's pushed through the database.
Even in that.
Even in that.
I'm not suggesting it's any worse, but it's not gonna be any better.
No.
Pretty cool stuff.
You know what, it's just something else, but I'm glad we're getting it because, I think it's gonna be
Yeah,
really.
you ought to see the thing, right? I mean, it comes up with GPS coordinates,
Hey, Sean.
pictures of the car, it's pretty
I
sweet.
asked Randy to move your item after the city council appointment.
No, you can run that with your, you can have one at night, you can have them on the car 24 hours.
Yeah, the cars are deployed every shift, because everybody else drives.
Right.
We make sure those two cars are out all the time.
Are those things, can you pull off your people, put them on another reasonably quick? or do
Right
they
now,
have
while
to-
we're testing them, you can, but they're on magnets. Once you find the system, drill them in, because otherwise somebody steals them. But they're cool. They're cool.
You know, we got tracking devices that work, we got things for a year, and we haven't been able to use them because they're waiting for, much like you stated, they're waiting for the procedure in order to be placed out there.
These things are pretty idiot-proof. I mean, the bell rings, the computer screen puts a picture on that says you just drove past it or whatever. You know, and we already had one stop just with the testing thing where the guy reported his license plate stolen, and then he found it. So he didn't know who. Put it on the car. I don't want to touch that. I got stolen. I pulled him over and the guy said, "Oh, I found the plate, but I reported it stolen. I didn't tell anybody." Okay, good. So we know that.
The other thing is, I think they read it, they record all the license plates, so if a crime's committed in the area, you can go back and look at it.
We have 30 days worth of space to save them.
Is
There was a homicide.
Is that the retention 30 days?
That's what helps you get a quick report. I don't want to use up all the space. You know.
What do they hold this for?
Yeah, you're
30 days.
Oh, 30 days, okay. The 30 days window in which, if there's information there to...
You go back and.
Good deal.
Okay. And then another thing, it tells you where the people are from. You know, you can trace them.
Yeah, it'll give you the registration, longitude and latitude of where you saw the car, and give you a picture of the car.
Well, they also tell you, they give you a printout,
From the door to the parking lot.
with the numbers, is the, you know, the number of
You mean cake?
Long and Galt, number of
Okay.
we have in Sacramento.
You have a sound.
Lodi.
Yeah.
I didn't see that, there was a whole bunch of administrative, I mean, I just wanted to see the. I feel this down the road.
The reason I said it'd be nice to know where the majority of the traffic is coming from. We know that it's basically where everything
Mostly
is.
from town.
Yeah. Well, you're mostly here.
Yeah, the residents back on your main street.
But I'm wondering about the crime coming from outside. You know, South Sacramento, Stockton, Lodi, you know. What just had the greatest impact on it? Because I would think you'd be able to take the information and work with the other days.
Yeah, well, and cops will get some good balance too. You got cops up and running, they only have, they've only given us 2 passwords. Next month, we just have everybody on there, and they can do a ton of analysis. If you ever need to, you want to do something, count the bits on somebody, what do you listen to? How many pieces by looking at this phone number, 2 bails around,
Everything.
all that. And you come running, and you get data for police calls.
I've never even, I've heard Woodbridge Pizza's pretty good, but I wouldn't know.
Top technology.
It's called chocolate.
Phenomenal. They can send it to a smart. You go up and take a picture of somebody, they can do a 16-photo spread. It's pretty good stuff.
You know what, I just think that, you know, it's just,
Velvet?
there's so much with it right now.
Everything's about
It's
what
all
you
about
can
money.
afford.
But you know what, you gotta have that technology. One thing Whitman's got going for her, like, it's the technology that she can bring to the state, because it will save tens of hundreds of millions of big because we've got some unnecessary.
No, I agree. Half of them don't do less than 40.
Right. I don't agree with her position. To the point, I understand what she's saying, but I think she's misled on some of the issues, because we're losing billions of dollars in revenue. And if you take some of the staff and she wants to get rid of them, use them as auditors and investigators, collectively, we're taking more of an aggressive position on collecting the taxes that are not paid. I think we can fill that gap. I saw the Democrats' proposal today for filling that $19 billion gap. More taxes, so we do tax swaps. And you know, the tax swaps just not for taxes.
Alright, we take that.
Yeah. We got at least a couple hours.
No, I don't think. Better hurry. Yes.
do another reminder to look locally, so you don't
We
feel
got,
an
we got a fence inside, we got I told my guys to do it, because I watched the motorcycle off the street late this morning, fucking over. I don't know if they're clicking, but most of those gates, you go up in, get real close, the gate will open.
Right.
Some of the guys, they must have clicked
Leave
the
that
gate.
frosting right on the
They're
corner
at
of
full
this.
step.
Yeah, no, they
And
gotta
that
be
gate-
more careful they don't kill.
That gate wasn't open for about 4 feet.
Well, you know, I'll tell you what,
Just
timing is wonderful.
real
I'll
close.
tell you that, I lucked out. I did. Because after, I'll take Daryl's hand and then I'm out of here.
Private area, whatever. Very good. We just both those things.
There's literally nothing I
I
can
think
talk
there's no
about.
public entry. Maybe that would be easier. A little less tax.
It'll be less. Put that
No,
5-minute timer on, it'll be less.
Yeah, I think they don't remember other people.
The other good thing is there's possibility of speed. It's your guys is actually fit.
Daryl, thank you for your service.
Well, thank you.
You brought in millions of dollars.
Yeah.
This reminds us.
No, I agree.
Well, it'll be, great to see it spent. And as fast as they can, so, no, that's been great progress. Wonderful. Yep.
Put the fuse.
Hey, Twin Cities, I'm hoping these roundabouts do the job for us, because otherwise we're 15 years away.
Sorry, I guess we need one more council member.
No, we don't.
We've got three. Call him.
Don, are you in the foyer area? Maybe you could come in?
Oh, there he is.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. I thought I'd seen you go out the door.
Well,
Did you
I'll
get
keep it
cake?
friendly. We've had certain
Did you want to
assurances
go
of
get some
how
first?
they will
ruin my girl's figure if I did
Did you want to get a slice first?
change in pattern.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, we'll reconvene. And our next item, what our scheduled manners, what Treasurer's Office, Liz, if you could read that off.
Okay, the regular calendar Treasurer's Office, Treasurer's Report for the period ending June 2010.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, City Council members, before you, you have the Treasurer's Report for June 2010, which, of course, is the end of our fiscal year. And I just want to say that once a year I do this, and I've been doing this now for a long time, probably, well, about 19 years now. And I always tell you what the amount of interest that the city earned this past year. And in my 19 years that I've sat in this chair, I will tell you that this is the lowest amount of interest that the city has ever earned. As a matter of fact, I remember the very first year that I announced this number. It was for the very first time that the amount was over $1 million that the city had earned in interest. This is the very first year that the city has not earned over $1 million. As a matter of fact, during this fiscal year, we earned $832,000. So, I just want to, and we of course use that as interest income and for all different projects throughout the city, and we all know, what's going on with interest rates. So I just want to throw that out. It's depressing as far as I'm concerned. But having said that, I'll just quickly kind of go over our entire city portfolio. Of course, we have a checking account at our local Farmers and Merchants Bank. We also have LAIF funds, which is the State of California Local Agency Investment Fund. We have to keep a certain amount of money in there just to remain liquid and continue to pay our bills. And we have to have a little bit of higher amount right now just because of all the different construction that's going on, of course, with the wastewater treatment plant, with the interchange. And so 14% of our portfolio is in that. We have some what I call non-local CDs, in other words, CDs that I have throughout the country that are under the FDIC limitations. That's only accounts about 2%. We have a CD, $1 million over at Premier West Bank because we believe in investing locally. So, and then we have a $3 million CD at Farmers and Merchants Bank. The rest, or the majority of our funds, is in what I call government agencies, which are callable government agencies. We invest with Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae, Federal Home Loan Bank, anywhere from say from a year and a half to 5 years. They all have callable features. In other words, those agencies can call that bond at any point in time, and we have 74% of our funds there. Now, having said all of that, I will just say that for the month of June, the city, for their entire portfolio, earned 1.82% in interest. And going back to what I originally stated, when you're only earning 1.82, you're not going to earn a whole lot of money on, or a whole lot of interest for the whole portfolio. And so I want to say that if you have any questions, Council, as far as the Treasurer's report, I'd be more than happy to answer them. We continue to, I still believe in this strategy. Of course, you got to do the safety first. You got to make sure you have liquidity, and then you go after yield. And based upon those three priorities, that's the city's portfolio, and we will continue that strategy because it does work, and we've seen that it's worked when interest rates have been higher. So with that, I'll answer any questions. Otherwise, I ask for that you accept the Treasurer's report as submitted.
Comments from council?
Do you forecast things looking better in any near future?
You have an 8-ball.
Do I forecast things looking better? Yes. My crystal ball is as cloudy as yours, but I do. Let's face it. We all know it's going to improve. But the question is, at what timing, and when it does improve. This portfolio will be, I constantly adjust and move it toward market conditions. So, this portfolio will improve with those conditions. So
just timing is timing.
Timing.
Yeah.
It's all timing.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other comments from council?
No. Move we accept the Treasurer's annual report. I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. No further discussion. Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Payne?
Aye.
Councilmember Clare?
Aye.
Councilmember Haines?
Aye.
Mayor Chapman?
Aye. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks. Next item we have is City Attorney's Office, a vacancy for City Council. And I had a few words, but Steve, you had some comments you wanted to make to get started, please.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, before you turn to the business at hand, there's just a few points that I did want to cover this evening. At the last City Council meeting, the City Council decided to solicit persons interested to sit on the City Council in an appointed position, and I understand the clerk has received numerous letters, and shortly the mayor is going to outline the process for tonight's proceedings. And if and when you get to the point this evening where you desire to entertain nominations to fill the appointment, then at that point I'll go over the process under Robert's Rules that I would recommend that you follow. If you do appoint someone this evening, and that person is here and desires to be sworn in, they can in fact take their seat this evening. However, my recommendation is that the person be sworn in and seated at the next meeting. I think that gives everyone an opportunity to have a more orderly process and not put that individual in a situation where they're voting on items that they may not have had an opportunity to fully review. I also mentioned at the last meeting that there's a 30-day period of time to make an appointment. That 30-day period does in fact run this Saturday. So in the event that you do not make an appointment tonight and do not set a special meeting between now and Saturday, you will no longer have that option under the law. The last item that I want to address briefly before you get to the appointment process or considering the appointment process relates to voting. One of the items that has been swirling around relating to this item is what happens if the city council does not make an appointment and after council member Claire resigns his seat and we're left with three city members and 2 vacancies? How does that affect quorum and voting? And I understand that this issue has come up in previously in the city. Back in 2003, there was a situation where you were without 2 council members. As a result of some of the actions that occurred at that time, there was a grand jury report, there was a legislative council letter, there was an opinion from your attorney at the time, and I've reviewed all of that information, as well as the current statutes on the books, any of the law that relates to this issue, as well as your local rules. And I just want to be very clear before you undertake your deliberation this evening, is that it's my opinion that 3 members constitute a quorum because of the local rule that you have adopted this past November when we redid the city council rules. And it says very clearly, 3 council members shall constitute a quorum for the transaction of business at any regular, special, or emergency meeting of the city council. I think that's a pretty clear and unambiguous statement. The city council has the ability to adopt a local rule. If at such time you decide to revoke that rule or to change it, then that would warrant a closer examination of some of the other authority within state law. But I will tell you that the authority in state law is very weak. There's a 1979 Attorney General opinion which addressed what is a quorum, and the citation in the Attorney General's opinion was to Robert's Rules of Order, which is not a court case, it's not a state statute, it's just a book that somebody puts out that is a recommended protocol. The other authority cited was a 1939 Supreme Court decision, and that decision very narrowly held that 2 members constitute a quorum for the purpose of electing successors when there were 2 recalled members. It was a very limited decision. Regardless of what the decision or what the ultimate answer might be on a quorum, one thing that is very clear is that in order to adopt an ordinance, a resolution, or any orders for the payment of money, it requires 3 votes. And that was actually cited in that 1939 Supreme Court decision. There is a statute on the books in the government code that makes that clear today. So that is the standard. So in a situation where let's just presume that you could in fact have a meeting with a quorum of 2 members, you still would not be able to act on ordinances, resolutions, orders for the payment of money, and then several other items that actually require 4 votes. So in summary, I just want to be clear that my opinion and my recommendation to this body is that because of your local rule, 3 members would constitute a quorum for the transaction of any business. Be happy to respond to any questions. Those are the only comments I wanted to make this evening before the mayor conducted the proceedings.
Any comments from the council?
I have not. I think we've been over this several times.
I have a question. Being that 3 council members require to have a quorum, in the event that you were to have 1 council member who couldn't show and you only had 2, that still doesn't prohibit you or prevent you from scheduling another meeting to address any of the needs that may come or surface?
No, absolutely not. I mean, if we had a regular city council meeting scheduled and we only had 1 or 2 members that were available, there would certainly be an option to adjourn that meeting to a specific date or time, or upon 24 hours notice to set a special meeting if there was business to be conducted.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'd just like to read off a couple of things and hope that council will concur. I think, one, I think it's really great that apparently we have 11 people that have put in a letter of interest to fulfill which amounts to about 7 council meetings before the election and before we take office of those new elected council members. I think it's great, and I want to say thank you for taking the time for filling out those documents. Some of the guidelines I have tonight is to ask the city clerk to read off the names of the letters of interest, those from those individuals, verify if they're present here tonight or not, and at that point then afterwards I would ask if there are any other individuals from the audience that just showed up tonight and didn't write a letter but they would like to speak. After that, I would like to ask for the, and I'll let Liz determine that, is allow each one of those individuals to come to the podium and speak for 5 minutes. And for lack of a better word, basically, you know, speak to us and convince us that you're the best choice. You know, it's almost like a job interview. After that, we would conduct an open public meeting. I would ask if there was any further individuals from the audience wishing to speak before we close the meeting. Once the meeting would be closed, then we would actually move into some procedures for council. I believe, and one of the things I'm hoping that we will be able to do tonight is for council, basically that'd be the time for us to make the decision to make an appointment. And we do that, and I would again ask our attorney, Steve, to just kind of review the Roberts Rules with us again. And I would ask each one of the council members to nominate an individual. If they choose to, is maybe give just a brief comment of why you feel that that person should be the right person, you know, the right individual to be the replacement. And what I'd like to do is normally what we do in normal procedures is I start out with like the vice mayor, Councilmember Clare, Councilmember Haynes, and then the mayor. And of course we would need, as our attorney pointed out to us, we would need a minimum of 3 votes, you know, and hopefully maybe all 4 of us would agree upon one person as a nominee. And then we can move on and agree for that individual. Council?
Sounds good.
I figure that that's probably the fairest, impartial way to conduct it.
Okay.
Okay. Then, Liz, I'll ask you to read off the names. Were you going to do that alphabetically, or?
I thought, to be fair, we'll do alphabetically. I have 11 letters. At the end, if anybody wants to throw their hat in the ring, we'll give you an opportunity. Or if you know you want to throw your hat in the ring, if you fill out a speaker card right now, I'll put you in alphabetically. So with that, I'll have the timers going, 5 minutes, and I'm going to call everybody's name. I haven't, you know, I don't want to miss anybody, so even if I haven't seen you, I'm going to call all 11 names. So I'll start with Ted Anderson. I'll give him a minute just in case he's in another room. Ted Anderson. Okay, Al Baldwin.
Al Baldwin. I've been a concerned citizen of Galt for way over 15 years. I live in Galt, and it is a community of character. And I'll tell you that I probably have come to 90% of the meetings in at least 15 years. So if you ask me if I know what's going on or how it's working, I've seen good, bad, and not so good. So just want to let you know real quick that one. Now, for all these years, every one of you has seen me come up here. I'm not going to go in detail. You know about me, you know about my history, you know about my reputation, you know it all. But I am going to suggest there are 6 items a council person needs to have. And I believe I have them. And I'm just not going to take 5 minutes. First, be worthy of trust, live with honor and integrity. Be honest, keep your promises, and do what's right, even when it costs more than you pay. 2, treat others with respect. Live by the golden rule, and avoid physical violence, verbal abuse, prejudice, and all other acts that demean or offend human dignity. 3rd, be responsible. Exercise self-discipline and self-restraint. Do your best and be self-reliant. and accountable for the consequences of your choices. Fourth, be fair, don't cheat, be open and consistent, don't jump to conclusions, and be careful when making judgments about others. Fifth, be caring, kind, empathetic, and charitable, avoid selfishness, and do what you can to improve the lives of others. Sixth, be a good citizen, do your share to make your community better, protect the environment, participate in democratic processes, play by the rules, and obey the laws. I think I pretty much qualify. No one's perfect, so you can't say I missed one or I won't do this or do that. But I can say that I've tried very hard, and it's been my goal to be the best character for Galt, and I want to do the best I can to represent Galt in all the meetings I go to, all the functions, and I go to quite a few. I'm retired, but I still work part-time sometimes. But I've enjoyed coming to these meetings, and even if you don't find that I'm the person, I'm still going to come to these meetings. I'm still going to be up here jabbing once in a while. I'm still going to be up here asking questions and hoping to get answers. And if people want me to come up here because they're scared to death, I'll do it for them if I feel it's right. So I thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate it. And Darrell, it's been a real pleasure coming to this with you. I'll tell you one thing I do remember, and that's maybe 4 years ago when you presented me with a concerned citizen jacket, and I was going to wear it tonight. The challenge was the zipper. We have a humidity problem, and the humidity in Galt is pretty bad sometimes, and that jacket just went smaller. But I appreciate the thought, and I'm here, and I appreciate all the things you've done for Galt. Mr. Button here, I'll tell you, that's amazing. I do make buttons for a lot of people, and there's no charge for if you're running for council. So I appreciate you having it. Oh my goodness. Well, that's what I do. I'm here to serve. Appreciate the audience. Thank you very much. Any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baldwin.
Okay, Timothy Corcoran.
You want to take questions as we go?
I wasn't planning.
Good evening. Timothy Corcoran. Myself, my two beautiful children, my wonderful wife, are residents of the city of Galt. First off, I'd like to thank you all for allowing me this opportunity. I do think you made a very fair and wise choice in opening this up to the citizens of this community and acted in the spirit of which this council should operate in trying to reach from and draw upon the greatest pool of talented individuals who are willing and wanting to serve, and I thank you for that. So to get started, I'll tell you a little bit more about myself aside from what I've laid out in my letter of intent. For the last 10 years, I've worked for the Department of Consumer Affairs at the Bureau of Automotive Repair, starting off as an investigator where I have become very familiar with enforcing laws and regulations. I do feel that will qualify me for this job. I've also worked as a subject matter expert in various capacities during my service to the state of California. I've also worked on issues that the city faces and had to encounter and address those issues within the field office that I supervise. Fiscal situations, budgetary issues, furloughs, vacant positions that we cannot fill. So I know those types of challenges the council faces and the city faces as a whole. I also have worked extensively in mediation. A big part of the job of a field investigator for the Bureau of Auto Repair is working with difficult situations with difficult people who all have very strong opinions when we come into this consumer complaint investigation process. And as a mediator, you need to be able to somehow bring these two sides that are very far apart in the beginning together. And through a number of years of doing that, I do feel that those mediation skills will aid me in serving the council should you choose me. I've also have dealt with labor relations, regulatory processes, strategic planning, all these various things that come with state government that certainly would come into play in this position as well. And as part of a management team working for the Bureau of Automotive Repair, I've learned and gained a great appreciation for the value of coming to a consensus. And I believe that also does play a role here, although parties do have their opinions. That's why this is a council of more than one. Everyone does bring their opinions to the table. I value the goal of trying to reach a consensus for the common good. We all want the best for this fine city we live in, and I would love to be a part of that. As I stand here today, and I wasn't planning on talking about this, but I reflect upon a situation way back in, I think it was 4th grade. And for those of you wondering, no, it wasn't 5 years ago. For the record, I'm 31. But I digress. So I believe it was 4th grade. I had succeeded in a spelling bee in the classroom and in the school, and was chosen to represent my class at a district spelling bee. You know, what should have been a very proud moment. However, I was stricken by fear, terrified. And the day of that spelling bee that I was supposed to attend, I feigned illness and I did not go. And the next day when I went to school, I was very saddened, you know, because I realized that I'd let down everybody. Someone else who had competed in 1 second in the school-wide spelling bee had to step in, was not prepared. I let him down. I let my classmates down. I let the school down. The reason I bring that up, 2 reasons. Number one, I very much wanted to call in sick on the way tonight, but I'm glad I did come. But number 2, it's funny how the small things, these very little things you think were insignificant at the time, really shape a person. I do feel that ever since that moment I've been driven to succeed. Although I still am scared, I do have fear and I do feel intimidation coming into situations like this. I no longer let that stop me from working hard and giving it my best shot. And if selected, I guarantee I will give 100%, as I have in my duties for the state of California, to fulfill this position. I will rely upon my integrity, ethics, and accountability to carry me forward and guide me. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay, next is Jeff Hood. Jeff Hood? I didn't see him out there, but I want to make sure Okay, Maddie Shepherd. I can try it, Maddie. Krakunis?
First of all, giving honor to the council, mayor, staff, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to stand before you this evening. I also have an interest in the vacant position, and I have served in this community for a number of years as far as an activist, as far as a volunteer. I am a retired program manager for the Governor's Office of Emergency Services. I have worked extensively through various levels of government, from being a trainer for the National Emergency Management Academy, as well as working for the Atomic Energy Commission. So I've had extensive background with reference to government and having some idea as to how it functions. As far as Galt goes, I have served on various committees, transportation. I have also worked with the Concilio. I've been a community volunteer, worked with the Galt Business Builders, and I'm a charter member of the Galt Sunrise Rotary. And for those that are not familiar with the Rotary, we work very closely with the community in supporting wherever we can, especially with our youth. I have run for office here for council. I've threw my hat in the ring twice, unsuccessfully, but that did not deter me from continuing to work faithfully with this community. And I will continue to do so. I understand that there is an extensive learning curve for your positions, but I am willing to work very hard and work with you and support this community, never forgetting that you are up there because of the members of this community and to support them. So, once again, I'm throwing my hat in the ring. The other thing I'd like to say is I want to thank this community for their support in my medical crisis in the past, this year. But due to modern medical advances and by the grace of God, I stand before you this evening. I also, Daryl, you're my sweetheart. Don't tell you why.
She already knows.
I think she knows. And I understand your grandbaby may be born on my birthday.
Good.
So that's a plus. We're going to miss you.
Thank you.
I can't thank you enough for the service that you've given this community. I've worked with you a very long time. And although I know your wife was proud, I was prouder when you finally sit there. And I thank you for your service again. Okay. Any questions?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Maddie.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Mike McCune. I didn't see him, but just Mike McCune. Okay, Sam Marino.
First of all, I'd like to say it's a privilege and honor to stand here before you and have this opportunity to speak to the City Council, Mayor Shelton, Vice Mayor Payne, and the City Council members. The reason I'm here tonight is that I have a vivid interest in this position. I have a sense of community service. I like Galt. I love Galt. I moved my family here from Sacramento in 1994. And since then, we have seen Galt grow from a small community to the city that it is now. In my opinion, Galt is a contemporary city moving forward. It's growing fast, and I'm a supporter for growth and building a city smartly, taking their time and planning things out correctly and not move too fast. Like I said, I've seen Galt grow in a positive direction into the city that's known today as a safe and positive place to raise a family or have a business. I support the growth for Galt, look forward to the ability of bringing new businesses and new citizens to Galt. I'm a believer of pro-smart growth. I believe that the city should continue to look at projects that improve our community. We shouldn't just build to build, but we can manage the growth that will help improve Galt. I've always supported the Galt School District. I've successfully placed 2 children through there, and they've gone on to UC Davis and Chico State graduates. I have a 15-year-old son who will be starting Galt High School this next year, well, the next week or so. And what I've seen about the Galt School District, it has a positive image. It worked hard to help their children to succeed and get the best grades they can, and then the education that can be offered to them. The teachers here at Galt are, on all levels, middle school, high school, and the elementary school, are very professional. They take their jobs seriously. And as a parent, I really appreciate that. I retired from the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation as a captain. During that time, while I was employed with the Department of Corrections. I was involved as an institutional gang investigator. And during that time, I had the opportunity to interview prison gang members, validate them, debrief them, place them in protective custody. I was able to train local law enforcement agencies. I was a keynote speaker in the first National Conference of Crime and Violence in Washington, D.C. I believe that with my experience with gang education, so to speak, that I can bring Galt some of my experience and work closely with the Galt Police Department in the area of how to manage the gang problem that we are now seeing growing in Galt. Many of us as regular citizens may not know what is out there in our city. However, there are key indicators out there and triggers that we all need to know. Some of the areas that I believe in helping that to take care of that area is to manage the gangs problems well. Manage them by our resources. Law enforcement involvement by being visible at all times, talking to gang members, education in the schools and with families, but most importantly that once we identify, for example, a gang member and now he doesn't want to become a member any longer, he's tired of life, we need as a community to somehow direct that individual to an area that he can live without fear of his life. Give him opportunities to go. I'm interested in this position not to fulfill a goal or embark on a political career. I want to make that clear. But to serve the city of Galt until this position is filled on a permanent basis. I just think that I can help the community out in the short term until the voters have the chance to select who the next elected council member will be. And if I'm the one that's chosen, you have my word that I will work 110% in helping the city council members, the mayor, and the citizens of Galt as well. Thank you.
Okay, Ray Morier? Did I pronounce it wrong? Cormier, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, you're next. Oh, I'm sorry, you know what? I have you under the M's. I have you under the M's. I'm sorry, because I have more. No, come on up. Well,
It's right here, isn't it?
Again, I
Cormier.
want to thank you for the opportunity to have this opportunity to help you guys out if you need it. I made sure I had the shortest letter turned in. Keep it simple, and that's the way life should be. That's the way a city council should be. I moved in Galt 15 years ago with my grandchildren and everything else, and I've done a lot of successful work and everything else. I went through my old political stuff that when I was living in the city of Burbank, and happened to find out on one of my cards when I ran in the city of Burbank, working in the city of Burbank, to build up there and make the city a little better, I came up with my political cards in 1977. So I thought that what I did in 77 could apply today. So things haven't changed. One big circle comes back to the other. So. Why I would make a good candidate is I don't belong to any political groups, and I don't belong to anybody. I don't have to play politics with anybody. Whatever I decide to do, I'm not going to offend anybody because I don't associate with anybody that much. But I do work hard. I do work hard to make the city of Galt a better place for the kids, because the kids are the most important thing. I've done a lot of work for the high school, behind the scenes and things like this. And I go up to Sacramento a lot and do a lot of legislation work up in Sacramento, and whatever I can help. And one of the things I was proud of, I was an arbitrator for the American Association of Arbitrators. And if you know what that's like to go up there and listen to those cases where the people got, try it sometime. And I managed to do that very well. And I have 70 years down the road of life. I don't know how much time I got left, but I've gone through a lot of hard knocks, and I certainly can apply it to help the city of Galt be a better place to live for everybody around us. Thank you, and Claire, good luck. It's always a pleasure to run across you every place where I went, and anytime I went up to the state, your name got mentioned, so I got in a little easier because of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ray.
Mary Lou Powers.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Mary Lou Powers. I know you're all pretty much aware of that I see all of you mostly on a daily basis or at least once or twice a week, and have had the pleasure of working with a lot of you, actually all of you, on anything that's been going on here in the town, Measure R, running out together when we were running for office. And thank you for some of those words you said about never ever giving up, because I don't really intend to either. I am going to treat this like a job interview, and I'm going to tell you what I think my qualifications are. I've been for 7 years on the Planning Commission, most recently as the chairperson. I think I work very well with all of the people on the Planning Commission. We do not always agree, but we've always respected each other's votes, and we've never taken it upon ourselves to be rude or unkind to someone that did disagree with us. When no one else volunteered to be on the Architectural Review Committee, I took that upon myself to go, and had some really good chances to help design what the new Walmart's going to look like and what some of the buildings on Twin Cities Road will be looking like. I also worked on Measure R because I think it's really important that we have more policemen in this town, and I am on the Oversight Committee as vice chair of that. Prior to living and working in Galt, I did work for the city of Sacramento. I was a district director there. A district director is the assistant to the city council members. And when city council members only work 2.5 days a week, we worked 5. So I guess you know who did 2/3 of the work. I had the pleasure of working for that community there, and I enjoyed working for this community here. I also know fiscal responsibility, having taken an organization that was basically bankrupt and bringing it back up to a very viable and workable nonprofit here in town. You know, I have great love for this city. I wouldn't be trying so hard all the time to get my name out there. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. We've all been reading the paper lately. Sometimes people feel they have a gun put up to their head. Sometimes I feel like I'm getting slapped upside the head by a newspaper, but, you know, we plug along. I do have grandchildren here in this town, both my son and my daughter-in-law. My sisters are all here in town. I just think it would be my honor and my privilege to work with all of you to help make Galt a better place in the next few months to come. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mary Lou.
Okay, Mike Singleton.
Good evening, council members and citizens of Galt. It's nice to see so many of you here. My name is Mike Singleton. I've lived here in Galt going on 14 years, and I love Galt. Galt is a place I love living in, and because we get people like this. These people have great sense of humor. They'll welcome you in town. They'll shake your hand. This is why I like being here. It's because of people like this. I plan on dying in Galt. I am chairman of the board of Crime Stoppers here in Galt, amongst other volunteer things I do here in Galt. I work with CERT, which is the Community Emergency Response Team, in case of disasters, for disaster preparedness and search and rescue. Mr. Haynes, Councilmember Haynes, last year nominated me to the Galt Public Safety Committee, and thanks again, Mr. Haynes. So I get a chance to work with the mayor and other people on safety issues here in Galt. I have a business here in town, and so I deal a lot with our people here in Galt. Amongst my volunteer work,
Miss Payne has volunteered me for quite a few things as far as music-wise. She's once she gets you, she'll keep coming after you once you volunteer, because I do DJ stuff, and I've been happy to help her out and help out the kids at Christmas time when we have that
Santa.
yeah, Day with Santa, in security with that. I've been coming to our city council meetings. I had to guess. I'm figuring about 2 years, and I've missed maybe a handful of meetings. I've got to see Mr. Berman and Mr. Rudolph move up and stay permanent, and these guys could have been a better choice. I think these guys are great for the city. I think that I qualify because I talk to people here in town. I don't care who they are. I don't care what their opinion is, but I want to hear it. That helps me make a decision. I'm open to anybody. I don't care what their version is. I just want to know what they think and why. So you can base a judgment on a decision you have to make of listening to both sides. I've always said, you know, there's always a compromise, or you can almost always come to a compromise of some type. And if not, then you just have to agree to disagree and move on from there. Take your look and go about your business. I believe in being fair, and I think that's about all I can say. Is I just want to help out Galt, and I think it's got a great future. We've got a great future ahead of us. When you're asking our treasurer, does it look better? Well, by mine, I see it's going to get better. It's not the first time we've had recession this bad, and it's not going to be the last. And we recover from that, and we will with our smart decisions. And you guys, like you said, you have a tough job up there, every one of you, and I know this. And I think I'm ready to take on that responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
John Slaughterback.
Well, I can't beat Al Baldwin's qualifications, but but a lot of the candidates here tonight, I'd like to see somebody appointed that, and Al, I believe, said that he would just take the remaining term, and I'd like to see somebody put in that's just going to serve the remaining term, so the public has a chance to get to know the other candidates. Some of the candidates here tonight never expressed why they want to be on council, what reason, what they hope to accomplish on council, and how they would go about accomplishing it. And I'd like to know more about the candidates and how these three items that I would like to hear more about them, what it is, you know. But my reason for putting in for the temporary position was the same as Al Baldwin's. And so if Al Baldwin's not satisfactory, at least consider the other candidates who have put in for the temporary remaining term, so we could give this city the right, just, ethical procedure to elect a council member. And like I said, there's so many of the candidates that we didn't get a good picture on, and I think with now and election day, a lot of questions will be answered, and not just to appoint somebody here for the term, and then that's running for our council that's going to be put in. It gives them an unfair advantage. I think Al Baldwin even said that. So if you don't want Al Baldwin, consider me. I'll make a good 8-term candidate, or any one of the other ones that is running for the temporary position. Anyway, I would be thoroughly dissatisfied and unhappy with council to see you appoint someone here tonight that has plans to sit on council for another 4 years without giving the public a chance to evaluate them and what they had to say, because we didn't hear enough tonight. So, thank you. Consider me, if not Al Baldwin. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
You know, when we last met, Al was leading 2-0 over everyone else, as I recall, right?
That's all the letters of interest I have. Is there anybody else who wants to throw their hat in the ring?
Anyone else?
Now or never.
Anyone else want to come forward?
Go.
Mayor.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so I guess that means nobody else. Okay.
No, that's it.
Good.
Okay. We will now conduct an open public meeting. And do we have any sticker sheets
I don't have
on this
speaker
item?
sheets. Anybody from the public wish to speak?
The opportunity to come up and speak if you so desire. You guys want to move this along as much as we do, right?
Okay.
If there's none, then I will close the public meeting. And I just will restate that now, council members, it's our opportunity and our time to make an appointment. And if that's our desires, which is mine, and if that's what you want to do, then I would ask Steve to just review the Robert's Rules again.
Sure. Mr. Mayor, under Robert's Rules, one person will be nominated at a time. It does not require a second to make a nomination. And then after all nominations have been received, you would vote on those nominations in the order received until one person receives a majority vote.
Okay.
Under your local rules, a majority of the members present is what would be required to select a person. So you need 3 votes of the 4 that are sitting this evening.
So it'd just be like any other meeting, we wouldn't go through and like go with like the vice mayor, council, mayor, just whoever says the name first.
You can take it in order if you so desire, but after you have the list, then you would vote on it in the order that the nominations were received. And there's nothing that precludes you from running through the list more than one time. So let's say you had 3 names and first time through nobody got a vote, then you could vote on those names again because people have a tendency to change their votes.
Got one comment.
I have a question, and I also have a comment.
Sure.
And Darrell, I know it's your last day tonight, but this is still a regular course meeting, and I have some questions and some concerns I'd like to get answered, if you will. Mr. Walters had asked you a question earlier that I thought was interesting, and what he had asked you, in essence, was he wanted to know, and he wanted to know if you had a second residence in Southern California, and I don't think he quite got that answered, other than you were looking for maybe a permanent residence. But I guess my question to you would be is, do you have a second residence? And there's nothing wrong with it. I would just like to know that you do, or if you've been staying down there with a second residence, looking for a permanent place to live.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to be technical, I have 2 other residences besides the one in Galt. I have a timeshare residence in Scottsdale, Arizona that I've had for, I think we bought it literally New Year's Eve 2001. Right. So I've had that one for 9 years. And I have a newer, so I guess you call it my 3rd residence in Riverside that I've had since this year.
Since this year, could you give me an approximate date? I'm just curious.
I would like to call for a point of order. I don't know that this is,
I think it's important because...
it might be important to you, but I...
But it is important to me. Well, no, and I think the public has a right to know, and I'll explain why.
Let me try and touch on, I guess, what your concern is, whether or not I have a right to vote tonight. I mean,
Exactly right.
Okay.
I do.
I think I announced 4 months ago, when I knew I'd be leaving, that before I left, I would consult with the city attorney and the city clerk to make sure I did this properly.
Right.
I think back then you or someone else raised about teleconferencing, which came up again tonight.
Right.
We got an opinion from the city attorney, not unique to our city, to all the cities in the state of California, what the guidelines were, how many people had to be here, for me to be able to teleconference and have a vote. So that was all taken care of. So, what I've been advised, and if anything has changed, I'll go over it. To have a primary residence here is what I'm supposed to have,
Right.
and do have, to be seated on the city council to vote, whether I sit here or whether I'm in Washington, D.C. What defines that? This is where I am registered to vote. This is where my driver's license address is.
Correct.
This is where my primary mail is. This is the only home on which I take a primary residence homeowner's deduction. I do not take one in Scottsdale, Arizona. I don't take one in Riverside, California. By law, I can have one and one only on my primary place of residence, Galt, California.
That's correct. But my
So,
question was,
I know what your concern is.
I know,
I
but
know what some people's hope is.
right.
If any of the laws have changed and I no longer have a primary residence here, but I've gone out of my way to maintain that.
I
Now,
agree with what you're saying, and your statement is correct. But my question to you was, and I didn't get an answer, and neither did Mr. Walters at this point, was, at what point did you have that residency in Riverside? That's just a simple question.
I've had that since, I believe it closed escrow on December 22nd.
December 20. Okay, let me tell you why.
If it matters to you, at the time, I wasn't even in the state of California.
Okay.
I was in Hawaii when I took ownership.
Let me tell you why it concerns me. Maybe it's not a legal issue, but I do believe there could be an ethical issue here. And the reason I asked for the attendance in the last 12 months was the number of conferences that you made compared to those that you were here is disproportionate, in the sense that you were gone more than you were actually here, which would make some citizens concerned about whether or not the legitimacy of your residency. Now, legally, you're absolutely right, and I agree with you. But ethically, I find it questionable. And I think when Councilman Meredith acknowledged and stated that he was moving and he had closed escrow, he disclosed that in a meeting, explained his situation, and immediately left the council. Now, he could have been here a couple more meetings, but he didn't do that because he wanted to be sure that he left the city council at the appropriate time. And I understand that. So I think under the circumstances, I think you should recuse yourself because you're not going to be here for the long term of it in the first place. But more importantly, it raises a lot of questions, and I think for the public, for transparency purposes, they needed to know that. But in all fairness, I think this is one thing you shouldn't vote on because you won't be here to live with the selection. So
if I ended my term in November, the very last meeting that every council member sits in at the end of their term, they won't be here for the long term either. They're done serving. Well, I will be done serving council meetings.
I'm just saying it's your decision to make, but that's how I feel about it. And I just wanted to get those answers. Mr. Walters, I don't know if he's still here, but he had those questions. I think he had a right to an answer. And I'll leave it at that.
Mr. Mayor, I just would like to put something on the record before you
Sure.
proceed.
Would you
Just so it's clear, in order for a council member to be seated this evening and to vote, they need to be a legal resident. That's the requirement. And the things that the law looks at in order to determine whether someone is a legal resident is where they are registered to vote, where they have a driver's license, where they take their homeowner's exemption, where they receive their mail, and where they own the property. And all of the items that Councilmember Clare has indicated he currently does in fact maintain in the city of Galt are exactly what the law would look at. So from a legal point of view, it is firmly my opinion that Councilmember Clare has the right to be sitting here this evening and to vote on any matter that comes before the council this evening.
And I've not argued that point, but I think it still raises many questions, and unfortunately, the general public didn't have that information prior to tonight. So that's what I said. The general public. Yeah, well, I think some of them did, whether you felt you did or not. So.
Okay, let's come back to order. Okay. Was there any other comments or questions?
I do have one other comment. Is that I do appreciate that everybody who applied for this position tonight. I personally don't feel that it's necessary, and I think it's unnecessary expense. I think that the city is going to be spending unnecessarily money for a temporary council member, not to mention the time that's going to be lost to staff to help bring them up to speed and answer questions. I think if you elect somebody who is already running for office, it's going to give them an advantage over other people who are running. I don't think that would be appropriate. Another thing I want to say is that we've got 3 months left up here before the next election, and it's to the best of my knowledge, we've never had an issue with attendance. And as our our city attorney had mentioned earlier, in the event, even if a council member was not able to make it, that we have it within our power to reschedule another meeting. So all this added cost and time I find is non-necessary. And therefore, although I may vote today, and I will vote tonight, my answer will be no for each candidate, not because I don't think they're qualified, simply because I just don't agree with placing a candidate or a council member at this late in the game, so close to an election. It just doesn't seem appropriate, and I just cannot agree with it. So that's my comments.
Okay. If there's not any other comments, I will go ahead.
Just to, we touched on this point the last meeting about the need to appoint, and I want to re-stress why I think it's very needed. Obviously, different opinion than reached by Councilmember Haynes or Councilmember Meredith before him. Most of you sitting in this room have seen this situation before and know the disruption it brought to the city. Some of the staff know specifically the games that went on with the remaining council members, some of which who would literally sit in the parking lot in a car and have a courier running in and out, letting them know whether they should come in long enough to vote on something and then leave the room to block other votes on other items. I personally was asked by one of those council members if they could borrow my cell phone, because that individual didn't own one, so someone else could call him and convey that information to him. So I've been a part of that firsthand. I wasn't on the council at the time, I was in the audience. Secondly, sadly in our community, I was going to mention this later, we know how suddenly death can come to a member in our community. That could happen to any one of our council members. And now, instead of 3, you have 2, you're done. So not only do I believe we should appoint tonight, and I'm ecstatic at the quality of the people who turned out tonight. Early on, we only had 2 or 3 names, and now we're up to 11, so thank you to all of you. But not only do I think we should appoint tonight, I'm leaving, obviously. I would recommend you fill my seat for a couple of reasons. A, you've got 11 wonderful, qualified people ready to serve. I don't agree with the cost. It's almost non-existent, and we're going to spend it in November again for anyone who's willing to come forward and serve. So I don't know why someone serving now is an exception to that. That'll be a decision the council will make after I'm gone. Clearly, I won't be voting on that filling of my seat. So I would encourage the city to move forward and to appoint someone, and to whoever that person is, and to the rest of you who isn't that person. Thank you for coming forward, and I hope there's an opportunity for you in 30 days or less. And the benefit to the council and staff and the members, we already know who many of you are. If you're still interested, if there's a second appointment.
Okay. Any further questions? None? Nope. What I'll do at this time for the nominations and for those procedures, I will turn that portion over to City Clerk.
Okay. At this time, I will open the nominations.
I will start off, and I have to say also that I am very impressed with the kind of people that have come forward, and because of that, I know whomever is selected tonight will be doing a good job, and we'll be proud of them. One of the things that I think we have to remember, I think everyone that came forward wants the best for our city. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But I feel like we have to remember that we need to run the city like a business. And some of the issues that we're dealing with now have been ongoing from when we first started the general plan. And I remember when I first got on the council, how hard it was for me to just come in here cold and try to do the best job I could. Even knowing the procedures were difficult for me to catch on to in the very beginning. I feel that the decisions that we make at every single council meeting is important, whether it means we're spending money or if we're involved in litigation. So I think the question we're asking tonight is who can best serve the city. In this case, it would be a lot of being involved in the city government. I think that whether or not they're a candidate for city council is not a priority for me. I want the best person to finish out this year. And I would also say that I have seen some people that have been appointed in the past go on to be elected as council members. Maybe that gave them advantage. But I've also seen council members that have sat up here for 4 years get unseated. And I think the person that's going to be elected is going to be the person that works the hardest. Having said all of that, I am nominating Mary Lou Powers, and the reason I'm nominating her is because of her experience on the Planning Commission for nearly 8 years. She's been involved in the general plan, which covers everything from transportation to parks. We have sat on the Architectural Review Committee together, planning neighborhoods. In addition to that, one of my priorities is to have someone that is involved in the community that can hear what the people are saying and what they need. I know of no one in this community that spends more time daily listening to the needs of this community, especially now when there's unemployment, when these people don't have money for their utilities, when they need help for food. And that's the kind of person that I want to be up here. But in addition to that, I want someone that has some experience in being involved in the local government. There's budgeting issues that are so different than if you're a business person, where the funds come from, all of that. So I enthusiastically nominate Mary Lou Powers, and hope that the other council members will agree with me.
Do we have any further nominations? Okay, hearing none, I close the nomination period. Right now we just have the one to vote on, so I'll do a roll call vote, and I'll start with Vice Mayor Payne.
Aye.
Councilmember Claire.
Aye.
Councilmember Haynes.
No.
And Mayor Sheldon.
Aye.
3-1. Mary Lou Powers.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
So we'll do a swearing-in ceremony at the next meeting. Talk.
You have to come up here, though.
I was remiss in saying goodbye to one of my very good friends, Daryl Clare. I just wanted to say, you know, you were the first person that I met here in the city, and I've enjoyed your friendship for as long as you've been here and I've been here. I'm going to miss you a whole bunch, and I wish you Godspeed on what you go and do. And thanks, you guys. I'm very surprised. Thank you.
Yeah, you may not be thanking us later. When you're, Mary Lou, you may not be thanking us later when you're sitting up here.
Okay.
And move to the next item, please.
Next item, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Galt, adding Chapter 2.60 of the Galt Municipal Code regarding conflicts of interest, guidelines, and a resolution of the City Council of the City of Galt, designating filing positions and creating disclosure categories for conflict of interest.
Mayor and council members, the Political Reform Act requires that every public agency adopt and promulgate a conflict of interest code, and to review that code every 2 years. In the past, the city has satisfied that requirement through the adoption of just a resolution. For a variety of reasons, I think that it would give us a more comprehensive program if we separated into an ordinance, which is proposed for your consideration and first reading this evening, and then a resolution, which I'll discuss momentarily. If you go into the Political Reform Act and the regulations that have been promulgated by the FPPC, there's actually quite a lot that a city is supposed to.
I take everything back I said about you.
Excuse-
Turned out and you said it all of it.
Okay, John.
As I was saying, that the FPPC has specified that there's quite a lot of items that need to be contained in a conflict of interest ordinance. So the way that I've structured the ordinance before you this evening is essentially to incorporate the provisions that have been established by the FPPC. There's about 20 pages of regulations, and in lieu of putting them in our code, we are just going to, or my recommendation is that we just reference them. Basically, what these regulations go through is they indicate for those persons that are required to file statements of economic interest, where they need to be filed, time of filing, contents and period covered by the statements, manner of reporting various economic interests, and so on. There's nothing in here that is new to you. These are items that we go over during ethics training that you've all been familiar with in filling out your economic disclosure forms. But by virtue of this ordinance, that becomes the code of the City of Galt. This ordinance also indicates that there are certain officials that, by virtue of the state law, are required to fill out statements of economic interest. In addition to the City Council members, those would include the City Manager, myself, and then City Treasurer and the Finance Director. The last part of the ordinance indicates that the Council will specify by way of resolution those other folks within the city that may be in a position to make decisions, participate in decisions that would potentially affect their economic interests, and therefore also need to be filers, Form 700 filers. So that's the body of the ordinance. The resolution, which is also an exhibit in your package, has a list of those positions within the city that are recommended for designation, and we have organized those by way of departments, and then we have specified 4 disclosure categories, and the 4 disclosure categories are pretty straightforward. Basically, category 1 would be those officials that have very broad duties as it relates to and decision-making authority. That's typically going to be your department heads and people at your upper levels of management. The second category are officials whose duties involve contracting or purchasing. So those would be folks within each department that might have responsibility for participating in the contracting process and having an influence on who the city ultimately may contract with. Category 3 are those officials whose decisions may affect real property, and those typically are folks in the planning department. Some of your, I think your engineers are listed here, your building inspectors are also in this category. And then the last category would be those officials and employees with regulatory powers. Again, those are typically in your planning and building inspection department, as well as some folks in your public works department, such as your streets field supervisor would be one example. So that's how folks are categorized under this resolution. The action that I'm recommending that you would take this evening would be to introduce the ordinance, waive first reading, and continue it to the next meeting. At the same time that you adopt it at the next meeting, at that point, I would recommend you adopt the resolution, and then at the end of 30 days, then both the ordinance and that resolution would become effective. Be happy to respond to any questions you have.
Comments from council?
I have none.
None? We'll need a motion for this.
And a roll call vote.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Move we accept staff's recommendations.
Second.
Double seconded. Any further discussion? None? Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Payne.
Aye.
Councilmember Claire.
Aye.
Councilmember Haines.
Aye.
Mayor Sutton.
Aye. Next item is Finance Department.
For foreclosure proceedings for Community Facilities District 1988-1.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members. In December of 2005, $12,445,000 of CFD bonds were issued to pay for improvements. It's refunded to pay for improvements in the northeast area of Galt. Payments for these bonds come from annual levies placed on the county tax rolls for each parcel within the district. Each August, as required by the bond covenant, staff reviews delinquencies to determine if the criteria for foreclosure has been met. This year, the delinquency ratio in the district exceeds 5% of the total amount levied, and therefore all delinquent parcels must be stripped or removed from the county tax rolls so that the city can proceed with collection of these delinquencies through the foreclosure process. Staff is recommending again this year sending pre-foreclosure letters to all the delinquent property owners, giving them an additional 30 days to pay and an opportunity to save about $250 in legal fees. If the levies remain unpaid, foreclosure proceedings will then be initiated. It should also be noted that staff is working with foreclosure counsel on the foreclosure process, the goal being to reduce legal fees for those parcels with smaller delinquent amounts while remaining in compliance with the bond covenants. This concludes my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Comments?
Well, I'll just comment. I don't have any questions. I know this has been a sensitive issue in the past. We have been sympathetic towards some of the people that, because of the economic situation, were not able to continue payments on their homes and therefore were in foreclosure for whatever reason. And I think the city has tried in every way to help those people by giving them enough notice and to be sure that they were notified. That was an issue that came up before. It's a tough thing to do, but I think we have to do that to protect the city. So I would be supporting this recommendation.
In the past, I have voted against this, but under the current circumstances, I am going to vote for it in favor of it. So.
I have no questions. It's, I'm
right?
sorry, we have a comment from the public.
Mike Guthrie, General Park Company, Mayor, council members. I was just thinking about this shutting down of water. When we get to putting sprinkler systems in all these houses, what's going to happen then? If you shut the water off, there's no sprinkler systems. So we're spending all this money on sprinkler systems, and then what's the outcome?
I'll comment. Remember, I made that comment on fire and life safety issues with no power, no smoke detectors after the batteries go out.
Right.
And for those facilities that require fire sprinklers, and there's no sprinklers, I have concerns.
That's been an issue we've been trying to address in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest problems was, especially when it comes to the lawn, the grass, and other things, but we've never been able to come up with a solution. Am I correct?
Greg, do you want to address this? I know we talked about the possibility of doing dual
dual
lines in the residences.
There is a possibility, that, and we're working right now on a 1 meter, a dual line, where the life safety issues with that water would actually bypass the meter and serve only the sprinkler systems within the house and not serve the domestic portion of the property. The obvious challenge with that is we don't know what goes on inside the home, and all somebody has to do is tap into that system.
Right.
But we're looking at whether the meters will be able to tell when that happens. We can shut off the meter, and then we can still see if water is going through the system. So we're working on the technology that ultimately I think we'll be able to work that out so we can maintain the life safety, but also encourage them to pay their bills on time.
Well, the sprinkler systems are required to have the shut-off at the source. So you're right, it would be at the meter that shuts the sprinkler and the domestic in the house. So I'm trying, in my mind, I'm trying to figure out how you get around that. You can do a separate valve that comes in and goes.
Well, in commercial, basically that's what you do. You have separate for
Right.
sprinklers compared to what you have for domestic water going into the building. So, that's one thing, but boy, the cost of that to do it on each individual house is going to be something that's a little different situation, because you got a backflow and so on and so forth. It's just not running the water over there. You got a backflow someplace.
Right.
I think.
Yeah, for the clean water. Right.
Actually, the meters act as a backflow device.
Okay, it's up on.
And then you split the idea is to split the flow past the meter, and then you could have a shut off at a irrigation or a water sprinkler shut off just at the house, like you have at most houses. Also have a shut off at the house. You shut it off at the meter and before it goes into the house. Now, some of our houses are so old they predate the common practice of putting a shut off at the house. If you want people to be able to walk out in their yard and turn the valve right outside their house and shut the water off and not have to dig up the meter or dig up the service. That's one of the things we're looking at as we move forward with the meter implementation program, is whether meters have the ability to do that and how we implement that. So I think it is achievable.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Then
You need a motion?
we'll need a motion.
I move to approve the recommendation of the staff.
I'll second it.
I don't know whether Councilmember Claire was listening or.
Since I wasn't in the room to
Okay.
hear that.
Roll call vote then.
Okay. Vice Mayor Payne?
Aye.
Councilmember Claire?
Abstain.
Councilmember Haynes?
Aye.
Mayor Shelton?
Aye, reluctantly. Okay, next item.
Okay,
Help me out here.
foreclosure proceedings for 1999-1 assessment district.
In May of 1999, $6,355,000 in reassessment bonds were issued to refund 3 separate assessment districts. Payments from these bonds come from annual levies placed on the county tax rolls for each parcel in the district. As required by the bond covenants, each August, staff reviews delinquencies to determine if the criteria for foreclosure has been met. Although the delinquency rate is at 21.5%, the bond reserve for this fund is currently intact, and so foreclosure is not mandatory for this district. Failure of property owners to remit payment could, however, deplete the bond reserve fund and eventually cause the bonds to go into default. Therefore, staff is recommending foreclosure on properties with delinquencies in excess of $5,000 in an effort to preserve the reserve fund balance. Again, staff is recommending sending pre-foreclosure letters to delinquent property owners to give them an additional 30 days and an opportunity to save about $250 in legal fees. If the levies remain unpaid, foreclosure proceedings will then be initiated. That concludes my report. I can answer any questions you might have.
I have no questions.
No comments? None? Is there a motion?
Move to approve the recommendation of staff.
Any further, gotta have a second.
A second?
Okay. Any further discussion? None? Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Payne?
Aye.
Councilmember Claire?
Aye.
Councilmember Haynes?
Aye.
Mayor Shelton?
Aye. Next item is Public Works.
Status of wastewater plant upgrade and National Pollutant Discharge Elimination Systems NPDES permit.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. The recommendation before you tonight is that you receive a status update regarding the wastewater treatment plant upgrade project and our NPDES permit, and provide direction, if any, as you deem appropriate. The second request is that you authorize a change order in the amount of $11,077 to the task order with Corollo Engineers. The presentation tonight is going to have 3 different components. The first is the recap, a brief history of where we started with the process and where we are tonight with the upgrade and the permits. We want to give you a project status report of the upgrade project. A lot of work's been done, and then talk a little about the permits and where we're going to close that out. With me tonight is Lisa Sanders, project manager on my staff for the project, and Scott Parker with Corollo Engineers. Following the presentation, we'll come back and ask that you approve that task order. I'll go through some of this stuff pretty quickly. Back in 2004, the board adopted a new permit for the city with several new effluent limitations, and that's basically what started this whole process. We could not meet most of those limitations with our present secondary treatment process. We knew we'd have to do something different. We then petitioned the board. The permit limits were actually stayed, and we appealed that to the State Water Board and prevailed. They came out with new requirements, state implementation measures, which said we were supposed to comply with those by May 2010. Our effluent limits were based upon what was going to come about with those limits, and so we kind of saw the writing on the wall at that point and said, okay, when we finally got to that point, we really had no choice but to go through tertiary filtration and UV disinfection in order to become close to complying with that permit. You've seen this slide before. We started way back in 2004. We just kept adding to this as we've gone through. Started way back with the new report, land management plan, groundwater monitoring compliance. The big factor in 2005 was the feasibility study. This is what we could do. I think we had 17 options. We moved forward with that. We started doing some improvements back in 2005, the liner and the grit chamber. Those were the first requirements of actual construction from the permits. Big news in 2006, we raised the fee. We saw this was coming. We started raising funds for it from our citizens so we could pay as we went. In 2008, we submitted the report of waste discharge. It's been 2 years since we gave them that document, and that's the basis for the permit. I'm going to be talking with you later tonight. Moving in 2009, we actually started the hard design. We achieved the revolving fund loan. In 2010, we started actual construction of the final improvements. We did a quick recap of what we spent to date. Total about $17.1 million. This includes the upgrade construction cost of about 11.6. We're about 40% expended to date on that project. This is kind of a breakdown of what the total costs are. The estimated construction costs there include the upgrade, the bypass pipeline, the grit chamber, the liner, everything we've done to date to get us through this first upgrade relative to the compliance. We previously cut about $20 million from the project when we looked at taking some of the secondary improvements and pushed those off into a separate project. As I mentioned, we've done flow metering, the basin liner, the grit chamber, and the effluent bypass pipeline. Those are projects that were completed from 2006 through just last year. The biosolids and the upgrade improvements themselves are just about 50% complete. So far, change orders to date and projected, it's remarkable, it's less than 0.5%. We're estimating right now a target of about $50,000 in change orders on an $11.6 million construction project. Now, that might change, but things are so far looking very good. We're actually now ahead of our contract schedule. We've made up about a month of lost time since when we started the project. We're anticipating being complete with the tertiary and UV improvements in December of this year, and the biosolids improvements, which were a late addition to the project, will be completed in February of next year. I want to show you briefly some pictures. If you haven't been out to the plant, I know most of you have, but you haven't been out there lately. This is the main plant, the main office here. We talked about the ponds. This is the reservoir that's had so much attention. Emergency start. This is the basin that we just lined. Clarifiers. This is the oxidation ditches. This is the contact chamber. These are the two sludge lagoons. This is what it looks like now. There's an army of people out there. This is the clarifier and oxidation ditch that's currently existing. We've got a new building going in here. This is the big pump station that will go through, pump water through the filters. This is the generator location. This is where the plug-in will be for the solar. If we ever get solar, we'll have a pigtail sticking out right there for it. This is the UV structure. This is where we're the now defunct chlorine contact chamber. With the UV, we don't need chlorine anymore. So we'll be able to get rid of that at some future point. Off to this area, but not shown, is where the biosolids processes are. We just have just a couple pictures to show you a little more close up. This is the UV channel walls. The actual grade will be about 18 inches below the top of that, and the effluent will flow down 3 separate channels, and actually the light bulbs of the UV are actually immersed in the effluent, and that's what disinfects it. This is the filter pump station. This is doing a water test. You can see the dark line in here. Actually, they filled it full of water. You can see a full-size ladder, so you can get some idea of how big that structure is compared to the size of the people. It's a real nice swimming pool, at least right now. Go ahead. This is the electrical room. We are building a new office and electrical control room. This is the side view of that building. You skip one, go back though. This is the UV duct bank. All that electrical work needs to get wires there somehow. You can see they actually even left a little space for concrete in that structure as well. This is a pretty poor photo of the building. It's a real nice building. Gives my staff an actual up-to-date workspace, a couple offices for the management, a nice workroom, up-to-date toiletry facilities, washroom, showers, locker room. It's nice for them to have a home that they can call their own, that they don't mind having lunch in. This is the effluent diversion structure. We put this in with the bypass pipeline, so we will be able to divert effluent from the pipeline into the reservoir. This has 2 factors that help us out. One, if we have some sewage that's not treated, we can put it in the reservoir, and we don't get penalized for discharging it. We also have the ability to, during summer months, we'll be able to bypass secondary treated effluent, turn off the UV, and put that effluent into the reservoir. We then use that to irrigate the crops, and we save money by not having to disinfect it with the UV. The structure will allow us to do that. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Scott Parker, who's going to run through the NPDS permit process.
Thanks, Greg. On behalf of Corolla, we appreciate the opportunity to help the city with this important part of the project. As Greg showed, there's a lot going on in terms of construction, a lot of dollars spent, but the permitting process is just as important. Many elements of a project can be made or broken in the permitting process, and it's certainly a long journey. The city started off in 2008 submitting a report of waste discharge. At the end of last year, the city received an administrative draft NPDS permit. Now, that permit had been prepared by a consultant working for the regional board, and frankly, it was a mess. There was a lot of errors in the admin draft. The city took the opportunity to comment on it, and when it was returned to the regional board, they decided to throw it out and start over again. So with their own forces, they prepared another admin draft and provided that to the city in May, if I remember correctly, of this year. Prior to that, the city and the consultants also recognized that there were many of the constituents, including those covered by the tertiary upgrade, that would need some time for the city to come in compliance with. So the city and consultants drafted a time schedule order and provided that to the regional board to allow the city to operate under until they could come into compliance. So again, in May, received a admin draft, provided comments back, also provided an infeasibility justification. That was what gives the green light for the time schedule order. And where we stand today is with a tentative NPDS permit, which is out for public review, as well as the city's review, with comments due back next week. There are still several constituents that have some concern for the city, and we'll be commenting on those in conjunction with the city. The city also has a few other opportunities to participate in this process, both at the Regional Water Quality Control Board hearing where the permit is actually adopted there in their facilities in Rancho Cordova, and also if favorable relief can't be received from the regional board, it may need to be petitioned to the State Water Resources Control Board. So there's a whole back end of this process as well. So while there are some things to be concerned about in this permit, I think we need to highlight some of the aspects of the permit that are favorable to the city. First of all, the city provides for year-round discharge. That was something the city wasn't sure if you were going to be able to achieve without additional efforts on your part. It also provides the capability of expanding the plant under this existing permit to its next capacity level. And that's very important, that you don't need to go through the entire process of submitting a whole nother report of waste discharge when you reach that point. It also provides for interim seasonal effluent limitations to allow you to continue to discharge secondary effluent through this winter until a tertiary upgrade is complete. Also, we're able to get some of the unnecessary limits where the city is in compliance with water quality standards removed from the permit, so that if there is a possible errant sample or something, you wouldn't be subject to mandatory minimum penalties. So that, we think, is a victory. We've also pointed out some concerns and some errors in how the regional board was calculating ammonia limits, and they've taken that under advisement and have corrected that in your permit. And again, there's several interim limits for what things that the city doesn't immediately comply with. Just real quick to touch on the effluent limits. The effluent limits are expressed in two ways. One is a max daily limit, which is essentially a single sample. They give you a little bit of relief over what you need to achieve on an average monthly basis. And for those elements that you can't immediately comply with, we have the opportunity to get with the city interim limits. They can either be in the permit, which is the case with ammonia, or in a time schedule order for those that are mandated by the California Toxics Rule. The limits of concern the city needs to address can be broken down into three basic categories. Those for which the limits can be expected to be satisfied by the tertiary filtration UV disinfection upgrade that's currently ongoing, and those are cyanide, carbon tetrachloride, and the trihalomethanes. Thank you. And the second category of constituents are ones that will either require future improvements and or operational changes to your system. The first one being arsenic. As you're well aware, you're removing arsenic from your drinking water. Currently, that sludge can either be off-hauled or it can be discharged to the sewer, and the city will need to find a balance between the off-haul and the discharge to remain in compliance with that, and something your staff is currently working on. In addition, ammonia and nitrate were anticipated as being addressed as part of the forthcoming expansion project to bring those into compliance. Now, there are three other constituents that the city that provides significant concern, those being copper, Bis-2 ethyl hexyl phthalate, we call it Bis-2 just to shorten things up, and temperature. And I'll go into a little bit more detail on those. First of all, with copper, the major source of copper in your wastewater stream is from the residential pipe corrosion. Essentially, with copper pipes going through all through the houses, the copper ions are leached off the pipes, and because the limits are extremely low and difficult to achieve, it doesn't take much copper coming off the pipes for it to cause problems. There's also a potential concern that as the water chemistry changes with arsenic control, that may leach more copper in the future as well. These limits are extremely stringent. They're down around 3 parts per billion, if you can imagine how small that is. And they're very difficult to meet with conventional wastewater treatment technologies. Usually you need to go to RO to treat to these types of levels. Within the regional board's methodology of calculating these limits, they lay everything out on how they determine the limits that they provide the city with. And we found they're essentially hinging your copper limit on one data point that is driving it down as low as it is. And we believe that's not that's not consistent with how they've distributed permits to other dischargers. And that we're making the case in our comments to them that should be removed. That will give you some relief on your limits to a little bit higher level. And because of that reason, if they're not, the regional board staff isn't in agreement with our comments, there may be additional action that's required past this permit adoption if they don't see the light. With Biz 2, next one. Biz 2 is a common pollutant that's associated with these with plastics in general, and primarily with these lab sample containers. We've found in many cases where we see Biz 2 hits in the lab that the laboratory blanks, which are supposed to be essentially deionized water, show it as well. And on that basis, we've been able to work with some dischargers to get a limit removed from their permits when when it showed up in their effluent results. That is a little bit of a challenge with the staff we're working with right now at the regional board, and we believe that the times it's shown up in the city of Galt's effluent, it's been an error in sampling, and therefore we've requested the removal of the limit. It currently resides in a tentative permit, and we're going to continue to ask for that to be removed. And then finally, the last constituent of significant concern to the city is the temperature. And this isn't necessarily the temperature of the effluent, it's the temperature of the receiving water in Laguna Creek. The basin plan, which the regional board utilizes to set effluent limitations by, says that any discharge within the basin, the San Joaquin Sacramento Valley Basin, cannot increase the natural temperature of the receiving stream by more than 5 degrees Fahrenheit. And it doesn't go to the extent to define what natural temperature is. The regional board has taken that to mean if you measure at a point upstream and you measure at a point downstream, if that wastewater or if that water in that stream increases more than 5 degrees, you've in effect exceeded that basin plan limit. In the case of a stream like Laguna Creek, where you discharge to, many times it's called an ephemeral stream, meaning that there's a lot of times there's no flow upstream. Well, that water sitting in a puddle upstream can be considered an upstream sample, and because the wastewater temperature essentially affects the entire downstream flow, it's very easy for you to exceed that 5 degrees when the upstream temperature is cooled by the ambient air. So this has become an issue for many of the ephemeral stream dischargers in the valley, and the regional board, the State Water Resources Control Board, has actually acted on this in the past in the Vacaville case, where they've defined that there's no natural upstream temperature in an ephemeral stream. Unfortunately, the regional board hasn't quite seen it that way yet. We'll continue to argue the point with the regional board. Hope to see some progress with them, but if they don't adopt this into the permit, it may also require some further action on the city's part. One nice thing to say about the receiving water limitations, there are no mandatory minimum penalties associated with them. So even if you get an NOV, there isn't a mandatory penalty, but they can still assess administrative civil liabilities. So what are our next steps in this permit process? Next Monday, the comments are due on the tentative order to the regional board. Not only are these the comments from the city, they're also the comments from the public. So any of the interested parties, if you will, the sport fishing groups, and those will have their comments into the city, or excuse me, into the regional board by the 9th. The regional board will take a couple weeks, a few weeks, to digest those comments. They will respond to each and every comment that's submitted, either on behalf of the city or on behalf of one of these interested parties, and they'll publish a document to their website that clearly states how they plan on addressing each and every one of those comments. They will incorporate the comments that they plan to incorporate in a final draft and take that to the Regional Water Quality Control Board. Now, the Regional Water Quality Control Board has established 3 days in the third week in September there for adoption of the permit, and we won't know until we get closer and they publish their final agenda which day the city's permit will be adopted on. But at that hearing, the city will have an opportunity to, if there are still items that are to be contested, to make a presentation on the city's behalf in front of the board seeking some relief on some of these issues. And if success can't be had there, it may go on to where the city may need to petition the State Water Resources Control Board on some of these issues. And again, just to summarize, some of these constituents that we're most worried about is the copper, the Biz2, and the temperature. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know this stuff's a little thick.
Perfect timing. I just finished my Sunday. Thank you, Mr. Clare.
Welcome. I apologize for undoubtedly interrupting the
Quite all right.
presentation.
He can have his while I talk. Like I said, that gives us just a little update of what we've got done, where we're at with the project. One more point of business. We have worked with Corello. The city manager executed a contract for about $19,000 to have them assist us when we went through the first draft a year and a half ago. Went through that contract because of the basic do-over. They board threw that out. We basically had to start over. So, and back in February, we had the council approve a task order contract, and I issued a task order for $19,500 for them to look at it the second time around. Now that we're now going into the tentative, which is really the third time, we find that we need to ask council to authorize $11,077 in additional services. This amount is beyond my capacity. We're treating this as a change order to the task order, and that exceeds my authority by about $5,000. So we're asking the council approve that change order for $11,077. There's currently adequate funds in the project account. And so we're asking the council approve that tonight. The scope of services is attached to the agenda report. Basically, it's helping us with the presentation tonight, responding to the proposed tentative permit, and attendance at the actual hearing. That concludes our report. We'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Comments or questions from council?
I have no question.
Great job. And not to take away from the great job you and your staff are doing, and that lady right there in particular, I still am disappointed that our city and many cities like us are spending all that money on all that equipment for what I have viewed as a perfectly good secondary treatment plant that, to my knowledge, other than a few minor things that would go along with any operation that size, was working perfectly fine, and we haven't even paid the bonds off that the citizens of Galt approved to construct. And I hope that I will come someday to better appreciate that this money was ever necessary to be spent by those people at the state and federal level who mandated we spend it. Given that we have to, you guys are doing a tremendous job, and I'm very excited to see the progress. To the staff, I know they've probably gotten tired of me over the years going out there to look at the level of the ponds and the discharge and the whether the grasses and the corns are growing and everything else. But one of the reporters asked me earlier if there's anything I didn't have time to finish, so to speak, and not that I was going to finish anything, but the C Street interchange and the waste treatment plant and the work you folks are doing, it's neat to see that the finish is in fact coming. Hopefully the hardest parts are behind us. One of the first things I did as mayor, I literally took a phone call while driving, back then it was still allowed, to be advised, on my way to Sacramento, to be advised by the regional board they were placing a stop on any construction and permits in our city. Mm-hmm. And I asked if they would just give me 3 hours, we were on the way to the Catholic Church, to get the lease that would solve the problem they were worried about, and they said no. And we did get that lease, and we did solve the problem, and then they lifted it. But I mean, that's been the battle we've been fighting from day one, and we did prevail at the state when this last came through, and I wish you all the best, and I hope you prevail again, getting some of these, what we think are probably irrational requirements and levels removed. So you guys are doing a great job, and likewise, want to come back and hopefully get access to see the finished product when the time comes. So thank you for all you're doing.
I agree with everything Darrell said, and thank you for your hard work.
Yep. Good job. Okay. So we need a motion.
Do we need two separate, or can this be covered in one?
Do this together.
You can just move staff recommendation if you desire.
So moved.
Yeah, I'll second, gladly.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? None? Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Payne?
Aye.
Councilmember Claire?
Aye.
Councilmember Haines?
Aye.
Mayor Shelton?
Aye. Okay. Are there any communications? And none? We will adjourn to the redevelopment agency. Roll call, please.
Board members Payne? Here. Claire?
Here.
Haines?
Here.
Shelton?
Here. Public comment?
I have
None?
no speaker sheets.
Would you read off the information consent agenda items, please?
Absolutely, we have 3 items. The first one is approval of the minutes of the meeting of July 20th, 2010. The second one is approval of the redevelopment agency warrants, and the third is approval of the treasurer's report for the period ending June 2010.
Any comments, or is there a motion?
Move the consent calendar.
Motion's been made. Is
I'll
there a
second.
And seconded. Any further discussion? None? Roll call vote, please.
Vice Mayor Payne?
Aye.
Councilmember Claire?
Aye.
Councilmember Haines?
Aye.
Mayor Shelton?
Aye. We'll adjourn and reconvene to the Galt City Council and City Clerk's report.
I actually have a couple things. I'd like, in front of you, you have off wipes from the Mosquito Abatement District.
Oh, yeah.
They donated them for our National Night Out yesterday. I believe the police department passed out hundreds of them at all the block parties. We have some at our public counters if any of the public wants to pick some up. And we thank them again this year for doing that. Next is, I wanted to share with the City Council a plaque we received from the Census Bureau.
Very nice.
And they were thanking us for our total count committee and participating in the census this year and helping to spread the word and hopefully to get everybody to fill out the forms. And they were very impressed with all of our participation, and so sent us that plaque. And I think we have another one coming. I'm not quite sure why, but they said they'll let us know then. Just a few reminders for the City Council. Planning Commission meeting in the council chambers tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. On August 11th, there's a Parks and Recreation Commission meeting, 7 p.m. here in the council chambers. And what you can
Just cancel. Are they having one?
no, that's the
I'm
yesterday.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
As far as I know, they're having
Sleeping.
one. We don't have planning yet. Yeah.
Well, I put it down here so I
Give
wouldn't
yourself-
embarrass myself.
Yeah. As far as I know, they're having a planning commission meeting. If it's canceled, then don't know about it. Have you heard anything? No. Okay, good.
Okay.
Did I say Parks and Rec Commission meeting, August 11th, 7 p.m. here in the council chambers. August 12th, beautification committee meeting at 3:30 in the City Hall community room, and that takes us to our next city council meeting of August 17th. Thank you.
Comments by staff?
I have one, and I believe the city attorney has one.
Okay.
I think you all received an email from Kevin Triplett with Softcom indicating that they were successful in getting some stimulus dollars for Softcom, I believe, in the amount of $6.8 million as part of the rural broadband stimulus package that came out. And that money is going to be used to expand broadband service in the unincorporated county areas in Sacramento County and San Joaquin County, those areas that don't have broadband service. And the good thing for Galt and the city in particular is they're planning on building a network operations center in our community, which will add about 60 jobs, not to mention the construction jobs that go along with that project. So it's a big boon for Softcom and the entire community of Galt. So big success there.
And we will be issuing a press release on that tomorrow, I believe. So
Good.
you can look for it in the paper.
Good. And city attorney?
I just wanted to note that today is Coast Guard Day, and it,
Right.
it
All right.
Commemorates the establishment of the Coast Guard, which was known as the Revenue Cutter Service in 1790.
Great.
Wow.
I will be back at your old, well, across the river, from your old academy in about 3 weeks.
Any other comments from staff? Correct?
I wish I'd gone first, Steve. Two things for council.
Yeah, top Coast Guard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I'll try. I want to let the council know that the treatment plant project we talked about tonight was nominated and has received a Project of the Year award from the Sacramento chapter of the American Public Works Association.
Great.
My staff will be going up late August at a luncheon to receive the award on behalf of the city. Also, the Central Galt Interchange project is out to bid. We're going to receive bids on August 25th, and we anticipate awarding it at the first council meeting in September.
Thank
Very
you.
good. Congratulations.
Boys, can you top that?
Sunday.
Yeah, he got
You
it.
brought Sundays, that's right, yeah, so.
And actually, I should probably let council know we have a tentative date for the groundbreaking for the Central Galt interchange on October 5th, probably a little bit later in the afternoon, and it is a council meeting night, so we're hoping most of the council members can show up and then just come
Okay.
to the meeting. So put on your calendars October 5th if there's any
First meeting of October.
first meeting of October. If there's any change, we will notify you right
I
away.
might get a grandchild and an interchange all on the same day.
Wow.
All right. Okay. There are no other comments? No. Council member comments. Vice Mayor Payne.
I have a lot, boys. Just get comfortable.
Just relax.
Have another Sunday.
Yeah. All right.
Right here. I'm gonna finish mine off. Go ahead.
I just wanted to thank the police department for the great job they did with National Night Out. I was proud of them, from the bicycle rider to, the whole group. I don't know if they were doing it on their own time or not, but they certainly did a good job and very visible, and I thought it was a great project. In addition to that, I have pages to go over. Oh, okay.
Yeah, would you put that, start that timer, please?
At the last County Adult and Aging Commission, we had a very interesting speaker who happened to be an attorney, and he brought up some things that he thought would be especially interesting to senior citizens. One of them is SB 120, which requires certain utility companies to notify residential tenants of landlords who haven't paid for the utilities, and these tenants get their water cut off. They can go ahead and pay the bill and deduct it from their rent. So that's good. The other thing that's interesting, what's coming up, is SB 407 regarding plumbing retrofit requirements. And I'm going to let Jason go into that because it's a little complicated, but very important.
Sure. It's something that's going to be coming up several years from now. 2014 is when it'll officially kind of go into effect. What it means is that if somebody pulls a building permit to do some kind of improvements on their home, they'll need to upgrade some of the plumbing fixtures in their home to improve not energy but water efficiency. So it'd be low flow toilets, faucets, shower heads, things of that sort in your home that are not up to the efficiency standards of today. If you're in a newer home, you're already in compliance, but the older homes are not. And so, beginning in 2014, everybody will be required, if they pull a building permit for something else, that at that time would be required to upgrade those fixtures. For everybody else, beginning in 2017, everybody in the state will need to upgrade their fixtures, regardless of whether they're doing any other work. So certainly there may be an impact to residences, to people that live throughout the state for that extra cost that'll be involved. Now, I think the thought process in putting it off so long is that in that period of time, between the next 7 years, many people will go through the process of upgrading their homes, their fixtures, their facilities. Your shower head only lasts so long, toilets only last so long, and so those things will, as they're slowly upgraded, most of that stuff will be done anyways naturally over the course of the next decade. Those that have not been upgraded will be required to be upgraded at that time, and it'll be interesting to see how it all rolls out 7 years from now, but it'll be something to kind of pay attention to.
I was feeling the city will probably be totally involved in that, carrying it out. That's all I have.
Buy stock in Lowe's and Home Depot.
Councilmember Clare.
Well, that just wrecked my whole night.
I'm sorry.
No. Well, it's just, I might as well rant. It's my last chance. The thought that you have to get the government's permission to take a shower of any volume, of any length, just disgusts me. I'll just be as candid as I can. I
Mind-boggling, isn't it?
find it disgusting, and this state, many of you know, came close to considering a law where they would control the thermostat in your home. I mean, I'll leave those two alone, but I mean, that is the times we're living in. In the same state that won't build a dam to store some water so this isn't such an issue. It runs from the Sierras and goes to the ocean. So, on that note, thank you again, everyone. I had a chance to go out real quick, thank the folks in the van. They are part of our unseen staff and their support folks back in Sacramento. Matt, hiding behind the magic door in the old bat cave, thank you to you for the work you're doing to get us out there. And I just wanted to leave one last little thing with the city. This is the official 1967 general plan, City of Galt, passed on to me by Bob Biederman, and I will pass it to our city clerk to put in our case or keep in the archives or wherever it ought to be. Things like that ought to stay in the historical archives of the city for folks to see and view in the future. So
It's $1.50.
it was $1.50. We give them away for free probably now. So. But again, seriously, and to Mike Guthrie sitting in the audience here. Not only is he still sitting here after so many people have left for the night, he's still one of the only people building a house in our community after so many people have left, some of which would like to come back and are trying to come back. And we got an election coming up, and a lot of hyperbole thrown around. That one's already off to a bumpy start. I hope it smooths out and people have a chance to look at the real issues and see the candidates, many of which we apparently saw tonight. This city deserves the best, and I think we've got a good group to choose from as we vote in the next election. And it has been my honor to sit in this seat for a small amount of time, and there's been a lot that came before me. Pictures on those walls, some of which I had the pleasure to know and still know, and some I didn't get that opportunity, and there'll be a lot coming after us. And Galt's a great place. Thank you.
Thank you, Darrell.
I'm
Appreciate
good.
it.
I'm good. Go ahead, Randy.
Don, that's all right.
No, go ahead. I'm all done. I'm nothing.
Okay. Well, Barbara, I attended the national night out functions too. I followed all of you guys because you were stealing my thunder. No, I was just running a little late. You know, I didn't make it over to where the caravan was, but I was there and I saw.
Saw you.
And it was very rewarding. It was very refreshing. You know, sitting down and talking with people and and having a water, soda, or hot dog with them, and they were very, very appreciative of what the city's doing and putting the groups together. That national night out is great, and I think they all really enjoyed it. I heard from several people that, gee, instead of doing this every August, maybe we ought to do it a little oftener, which I thought was really great.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all the comments I had. And
Can I make one more comment?
pardon me?
Just a comment, our filing period closes tomorrow, so
Oh, that's
for
right.
the candidates, get your paperwork in.
By 5 p.m., right?
By 5:30, we're up until 5:30.
Oh, okay. All right. So we will adjourn at 10:08 p.m. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Of course.
Grandchild.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I talked to Barbara. So you'll have to come back.
Yeah.
Well, you don't stop in. Well, good luck. I'm so proud of the accomplishment over here, but in your private life as well.